Welcome to the 19th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast, your go-to source for episodic reviews of spring 2017's best currently airing anime. Today marks the 12th week of this season. We're finally at the end of the spring season, so we'll be covering the last few finales and giving our final recaps and scores on the 10 shows we chose to watch, some against our will. My name is Leo, and I am a fireworks enthusiast. What I mean by that is I love that song Fireworks by Katy Perry. Also with me is Bcom, and he forces me to lie sometimes.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, wow. You changed that on me, and I didn't see you make that quick change.
I took great pleasure in coming up with that one last night.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Leo's just been sending me lots of snapshots of 4th of July fireworks he's been setting off with his friends, and I'm just like, oh, this is going to be good.
Well, when I last talked to you, you were surprised we had so much. I'm like, that's just what I have. So I sent you pictures of like the piles of fireworks we had. So,
well, they're all Katy Perry approved. Good
and they've all exploded last Friday. So,
just like Katy Perry, apparently.
Oh, gosh.
All right. Let's get into these last few episodes, and then like we said, we'll have final reviews and scores at the end. Let's see how we did this season. So for the last time on Sundays, we've got Alice and Zoroku, episode 12, I'm Home, the finale. So this episode begins with a kind of mysterious scene where Ryu Naito meets with some Japanese politician or businessman, it's kind of unclear, and hands him a folder of information on the dreams of Alice. And like the man calls Naito's actions commendable for a quote-unquote lizard's tail. It seems that the show is finally like getting back to the political intrigue from the beginning of the show, now that we're at the very end. And I thought that was pretty strange. Like, I guess it seems like Ryu thought that like the dreams of Alice were still like too undercover and wanted to like expose them to the world, basically. Like, that's what he wanted.
It did kind of come out of nowhere, but
it was weird. Like, I don't know. Then we find out that
it didn't pull me out of the story though, so I was fine with it.
Oh, it totally pulled me out because I was like, I thought the show was done with this shit. And like, I was so confused because this show has had like two different halves. Like, it had the first half, which was all like political intrigue, like research facilities, all that stuff. And then it had this second half that was just like cute moe shit. And then now it's bringing back that thing from the beginning with no build up and no like, I don't know. It's strange to me. It was a bad decision. But then we find out through Ayumu that there's an ongoing search for Hattori. Apparently time flows differently in Wonderland, because it seems they've been like searching on the outside for several days, but they've only been there for like what seems like a few minutes.
10 days. So long they've been disappeared. Yeah.
Ayumu tries to think of where Hattori would have gone and remembers them telling each other of their like ideal vacation when they were kids. And Ayumu wanted to visit Liverpool because she's like a soccer nut. And Hattori said she wanted to travel from south to north during springtime and follow the blooming of the flowers.
I didn't know that was possible.
I don't know. I guess it could be technically, yeah.
It's cute because it's a little girl dream, so I'll take it.
Ayumi tries to call Hattori, but gets no response. And we find out that in Wonderland, a little rabbit is around and has stolen Hattori's phone. And to my surprise, we see that like there's actually, it shows a missed call. So like there is cell service in Wonderland. So like Hattori and Alice chase down the rabbit and grab the phone.
There's a specific reason how.
Yeah, and they figure out that the phone connected because the rabbit is a connection to the outside world. So he's the one that can like provide the cell phone service or like the connection to the outside.
Have you ever heard of rabbit antennas?
No.
It's an old ass antenna that sat on TVs.
Oh, on your TV set, like
they call them rabbit ears.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So this is like kind of what it made me think of. I thought that was cool.
I used to have a TV with those a long time ago in my basement. They grab him, the rabbit, and like he kicks Alice in the face and like gets away, basically. And then he leads them on this like merry chase around Wonderland, just like all over the place. And at one point, it's funny, like Alice is running and she sees Hattori's like struggling, and she's like, "Oh, just put on some of these sneakers." And there's like sneakers growing on plants all around them.
Like the sneakers were like the flower part of the flower.
Yeah, exactly. They were like blooming out of the plants. Yeah. So Alice realizes that the rabbit is just like her. It's like an aspect of herself. So she thinks it's just teasing them. And then we cut away, and Zoroku and Sanae are still in Wonderland. They're continuing to follow the pig, and they come across like giant pancake land, which looked delicious to me. So then back to Alice. They come up with a sneaky plan. She pulls Hattori close and whispers something to her. And then they both act like they're completely exhausted and just collapse to the ground. So they're trying to trick the rabbit, because the rabbit like comes up to them. He's no longer having fun because he's not being chased. And it comes and like taps its foot on Alice's hand to see if she's like okay. And then she like quickly grabs him and yells like, "You fell for it," kind of thing. So Hattori is able to get a text out to Ayumu now that they have the rabbit, and Ayumu calls her back and tells them that everyone's looking for them for over 10 days now. And Ayu and Hattori cry and make up over the phone, basically. Alice tells Ayumu to look for the place where she saw the rabbit appear in the real world before. And if she looks near there, she might be able to find like an entrance into Wonderland and get them out. And like once they give her those instructions, the phone runs out of battery, so it's all up to Ayumu at that point. Meanwhile, Zoroku and Sanae come across a giant like convenience store bento box, and this is like from the first time Zoroku saw her in the real world. And he explains that he thinks like everything inside Wonderland is basically what is normal to Alice, and like everything that is outside the world is a first experience for her. And he says he's only made it this far because of the help of others, and like this is kind of how he's always lived. And I was like, okay, sort of, but she's also like a research facility patient. Like it's a little different, Zoroku. But I guess like the general philosophy of just like making it by with the help of others in a world you don't understand is okay. So Ayumu frantically searches for the entrance to Wonderland and eventually gets frustrated and yells, "Take me there!" She's like on the city streets, and a door with the Cheshire Cat face appears and smiles at her, and it opens, showing her like a dark staircase. And she goes in, and like as soon as she walks in, the door closes and disappears, and there's just like this Japanese salaryman on the street who's like, "What the fuck was that?" Just like so confused by what happened. I liked that. There's just like gonna be so many random people in this story like who have like seen crazy shit and have no idea what to do about it. Alice is about to ask Hattori like what it means to be friends when a giant door opens next to them, and Ayumu pushes her way through. At the same time, Zoroku and Sanae arrive to see like the three girls have like regrouped and they're all smiling together. And then like the rabbit drops like a bridge made out of red tape and like two scooters for them to use. So like Zoroku and Sanae just like scoot across this like sky bridge between
it's really
these, like,
it's neat
islands.
Because it's like all things that she had seen before or made a certain point to point out in like earlier episodes. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, she can only like give them the tools that she knows exist to use, basically. It's kind of fun. But as Zoroku is crossing, something starts to go wrong. There's like these sort of black clouds start to form in the sky. And then we get a shot at like the government research surveillance facility, whatever it is. And like there's an evacuation alarm that starts blaring saying that Wonderland is expanding and they need to get out. Zoroku does make it across, and she like Alice like runs and like magnetizes to his body, like hugs him. And he looks at up at like the weird thing happening in the sky and does what only Zoroku would do. He like thinks about it for a minute and he just yells, "Cut it out already!"
Hey, he said he was going to give it its turn talking to.
Yeah, that's what Sanae has said too. She's like, he really did give Wonderland a talking to. I was laughing at that part. It was good. I love Zoroku. He's like easily the best part of this show for me. I don't know. The rabbit, afraid of Zoroku, makes a big red button for him to push, and Zoroku pushes it. And nothing happens for a second, but then like fireworks start going off, and the dark cloud in the sky disappears.
Well,
and
it's like a big gray like window into like another world. It's got like weird moving patterns. It's super strange.
Yeah, I couldn't tell exactly what it was supposed to be, but like some kind of like void taking over. Yeah, like
it had those weird Kato effects that does on that cube going on. It was strange.
Yeah. So when the black clouds disappear, Ichijo also falls out of the sky in her maid outfit. So she's okay. And back at the surveillance research facility, they see that Wonderland has stopped expanding. So the girls go through the door, and it surprisingly just opens straight up into Zoroku's house. And Alice is like so excited that she's home that she like runs in, starts stomping around, and like she gets yelled at because she's wearing her shoes on the tatami mat, which is a no-no. Ichijo goes back to like the other entrance that led to the facility, and she goes in and she's just exhausted. She's completed her mission and she just collapses on the ground and like immediately falls asleep. Meanwhile, Sane like grabs a clock and sees that it really has been like 10 days since they were last there. And Zoroku says like, this is pretty screwed up. And Zoroku and Alice like walk the other girls home. Like Hattori says that she after she talks to her parents, she's gonna like actually go to the police and tell them everything she's done. And Zoroku promises to help them if they need it. I liked that Hattori like took responsibility for the things she's done. She knew what she did was wrong, and they may not like give her jail time or something, but they'll at least like have it on her record, you know. Ayumu tells Hattori how her parents searched for her day after day when she disappeared, which makes Hattori like a little bit more optimistic. And Hattori asks Alice to stay for a few minutes because she knows that if Alice is around, that she won't lie to her parents. She won't like lose her nerve. So she like opens the door, and her parents are just incredibly relieved to see her. They like run up and hug her when she gets back. And then the scene just cuts after that. I kind of wish we'd gotten a little bit more of a conversation between her and her parents. Like, are her parents' problems like magically solved now? Are they not going to get divorced? Or
I totally got that it's going to be better now.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. It's possible. I guess since like the root of their problems supposedly was that she wasn't like doing well enough in school. Like that was the original reason that at least Hattori thought that they were angry at each other. I don't know if that's the actual reason that their marriage was not working out. But anyway, it kind of resolves there. The politician from the beginning of the episode is on a TV broadcast announcing that a government office is being opened up, like a response to the Dreams of Alice office, and its goal will be to protect the rights of anyone who experiences a dream of Alice. And he kind of makes it really clear that this is something that can happen to anyone, and you shouldn't like persecute people for it. I don't know. That was interesting, I guess. And at the end, Ichijo is on top of her roof, and she's like talking with her coworkers. She hopes that announcing the Dreams of Alice publicly will be a positive change for the world. And Ryu Naito says, well, as long as the girls are happy and healthy, everything is fine. Okay. It's like, that's your big finish. Anyway, so there's credits, and then after the credits, there's an epilogue, which was really fucking confusing for me. So I think it's narrated by like an older version of Alice, like she's grown up now. But she makes a lot of allusions to having like a younger sister. And we met like
I took it as she referred to Alice as she referred to herself as the older sister, and I felt like she may have been the Wonderland herself.
So there was like an earlier episode where like Alice met like a blonde-haired girl who looked older than her, right?
Yes.
So this is definitely that person. The only question I have is whether that's like future Alice or if it's like Alice's actual like older sister somehow.
My theory is that is actually Wonderland, and that's just how it's embodying itself. And referring to Alice as an older sister would make sense in that concept.
Yeah, whatever the narrator, whoever they are, is thinking back on what happened, and like we're also seeing like in real time that like Zoroku is like going on with life, and he's like giving Alice a school backpack, and she's like really happy, and she runs off to school with Hattori and Ayumu. And text also scrolls across the screen saying that like this was the story of a girl who is trying to find herself so she can become a me. And I was like, okay. And in the final shot, older Alice or whatever thanks Zoroku for everything that he did for her, and like life is good now, basically. It was just like kind of like a quick epilogue.
Yeah. So when it said so she can become a me, I took that as so that because she's been kind of slowly finding out who she is. Mm-hmm. And that's what they mean by saying become a me.
like she kind of thought that she was just like a wonderland, which is like a undefined, like ever expanding like thing. Whereas she wanted to become like a real person.
Yeah, that's
like
how
she even says it in this last episode. Like, I think up till now I've just been like this communication device for Wonderland, but I really want to be my own person.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And that's what I totally thought when I first saw that sentence. I didn't think anything else about it until you just brought it up again now. So
yeah. Should we talk about this show now, or should I save it for the end? I guess I'll just talk briefly. I just felt that with the conclusion of this show, it had no idea what it wanted to be. Like,
I think it did.
It had no fucking clue.
If anything,
it had
I'd
two
say
halves that just did not make sense with each other.
If anything, I'd say it had time constraints, so I had to cut stuff out.
I think that's definitely a problem too. Like, if this had 24 episodes, that might have had more arcs that helped me make sense of everything that they were trying to do. It was a decent retelling of like Alice in Wonderland's like tropes and story points, I would say.
I really liked their version of it. That was one of my big likes about it.
Yeah.
They made its own universe and crazy stuff.
I don't feel like the show had a very clear message, like, in the end, of like what it was trying to say. Like, I think it was just like, hey, here's cute girls.
I don't think it had a message. And for me, shows don't always have to have a message. So I don't care.
Not always, but like I usually want to get something out of them. I don't know. I'll have more thoughts later when we do our final reviews. Do you have any other last thoughts on the final episode?
Nope. I have a little bit more to say when we get to we give our scores, but that's about it for the final episode, really.
Okay.
Oh, let's talk about Little Witch Academia, episode 25, the final episode. And I wrote a lot. I wrote like 2 pages and a quarter. That's a lot for me.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Oh, there's a ton of stuff happening. I mean, just for the simple fact they didn't even do the intro.
Yeah, that's when you know it's serious.
Yeah. So just like a couple random quick things that happen at the beginning. You just see Qua's cube start to merge with a missile on a submarine. Something we knew last episode. I wrote down making me think it could possibly be a nuke, but that's not important.
Yeah.
Andrew is with his dad, Paul, in an office with some other people, and they can hear an alarm going off, but they can't figure out where it is and why it can't be turned off. One of Paul's associates like pulls out his phone to use an app that Qua made to help calm people down, but when he pulls it out, he sees a video feed of the missile flying through the air. And then, just to show how big of an episode this is, the show skips the opening and just puts the words Little Witch Academia over the missile.
Yeah, it was such a weird moment for me to have like Little Witch Academia over like a freaking missile. It was so like a very surreal thing. I was like, oh god, this is real.
It's going to bomb America with anime. That's what it's trying to symbolize there. We go back to our all-female cast in the forest. They also hear the alarm, but can't tell where it's coming from either. In front of Chariot, there's a cell phone. Somebody's cell phone is falling on the ground, and it has the missile feed on it. She picks it up and sees it. And Qua gets up and says her cubes must have taken it over. She tries to override the cubes, but she's denied access. We already kind of knew that too. And then also everybody else in the world is also seeing the missiles on their phones too. So everybody's watching this live feed of this hate missile, which I have dubbed it, flying through the air. That's an appropriate name, right?
Hate missile? Sure, why not?
It's fueled by hate. It's a hate missile. Yeah. Give me a break.
No, it works, yeah.
Qua explains that hatred feeds on hatred, and her device won't stop until it's like spread hatred everywhere. When it finally does, it will explode then at that time. It's looking really grim. Everybody's like, oh no, this is like the end of the world. But then like Akko, of course, speaks up and says they must at least try something. Her point is there are 9 perfectly good witches here, and surely they can do something. Diana agrees, since it was magic that has caused this problem, then it may also be how they solve it with magic. Qua says there isn't enough magic left in the world to catch up to the missile, and even her magic system is down. It's been damaged, so she can't even access magic herself. Of course, Akko is not deterred at all and says, let's become the new 9 witches. So that's why there's 9 of them. Good thinking ahead on their part, I think. Qua and Constantine's quickly build a contraption with everybody's...
Qua and who?
Constantine's.
Constanzi.
I can't pronounce her full name either, so don't worry. They quickly build a contraption with like everybody's brooms hooked together. It's kind of neat. Akko casts her spell. Like, okay, if you're worried about me butchering her name, I'm gonna butcher all these spells I put in here.
I'm here for this. I'm excited.
Okay, Sibilla Dura Lele de Bura, and
good enough.
Yeah, whatever. And transforms the contraption into like one giant super broom. It's pretty cool. It just kind of transforms a little bit.
Yeah, this whole thing is really awesome, actually.
Yeah, I'll tell you when we start getting to my favorite parts here in a minute. Before the young girls can jump on and go after the missile, Chariot and Qua cast a spell on them called Metamorphi Vestesi, and it transforms their outfits into like some cooler white versions. And I just want to make a quick note. Each clique gets like their own different colored belt and hat band. Diana gets a blue one, all for her health. Did you notice?
No, I didn't notice this.
She gets a blue belt and headband, all for herself. Akko's group gets red, and Amanda's group is all in green.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't notice that. The girls take off on their missile broom, and Chariot and Qual watch them go. Qual says they are terrible teachers because the girls don't stand a chance, but Chariot has a ton of faith in Akko because she doesn't believe in miracles, but she knows that Akko does not believe in miracles, but she does believe in herself, so that's why she believes in her also. Now this is like one of my favorite parts where the girl's broom starts acting like a multiple stage rocket. And just real quick, if anybody's familiar with this, just think of a rocket flying through the air, and back sections keep falling off as it moves to different fuel canisters to get longer rides out.
The weight you release the weight, and all the fuel is gone, so you just drop it off.
Yeah, so there's no need for that weight on there anymore.
I just want to say, Jasminka, so she's like the first one to go, like you said, and she said, they are like, let it out, Jasminka, and she like eats a donut. I thought she was just like farting or something.
I took it as I was like, is she farting too?
But what they really meant is like, oh, let out all your magical energy. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so like the broom gets this, so Jasminka does it, and her broom gets this huge burst of magic, and then when she's done her thing, she then drops off, and she's like, you see her falling away as she chomps into a donut. And now it's Constanza's turn. She like pulls on a chain, and the girls, they get this huge fiery lift that takes them even higher. And then she drops off, giving a thumbs up, and then Amanda takes her turn, and she gives another big like burst of green magic, doing a barrel roll, of course, of Amanda, and drops off, like just cheering them on. Back on the ground, everybody's now getting the live footage of the girl's super broom rather than the missile. And Paul, on the other hand, is in discussions about if they can intercept the missile or not. They say the missile is slower than normal ballistic missiles, so they think they have a decent chance. As they argue about whether or not they should warn the other country, which, yes, you totally should, they detect another object chasing the missile. They bring up an image on the screen, and it's the girls. And like Andrew is shocked because he sees Akko. But now it's Susie and Latte's turn, and they double up on their brooms, and Susie splashes one of her potions on the broom ends, and Latte summons like a flame spirit to light it, giving them like another big boost. And then quickly back at the boys' academy, they are gathered around the table watching the girls. They speculate that the girls might be trying to catch the missile. That's all that scene was about. And then we go back to Susie and Latte, having done their bit, drop off, and they also cheer Akko on as they fall away. The missile has now come into sight, but they are starting to lose altitude because they're almost out of magic. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, 2 interceptor missiles come flying out of the clouds surprising them. And it's going for the hate missile, but then like the hate missile dodges one and then fires a laser at another, and then ends up blowing them both up. So back on the ground, the people are getting increasingly worried about the missile. One person remembers the witches are up there and might be able to stop it. The crowd of people like start cheering, and we see their positive like emotions rise through the air like green tendrils. And it starts giving Akko and Diana more magic to keep flying. Qua sees this, and she's just cannot believe they're still flying. And then she gets even further surprised when she sees the people's emotions are being converted to magic with no system in place. It's just blowing her mind. Qual ends up changing all the TVs in the world to be broadcasting Akko and Diana, and then Qual makes it so that Chariot can give a motivational speech real quick over the TVs. Paul thinks the witches are only making more trouble and making the people riot more. And like Andrew is like defending them, saying the people are already starting to believe in them, and he does too. They're trying to argue some more, but then the prime minister shows up and pretty much everybody just shuts up at that point. And he sides with Andrew and says we should probably believe in the girls. Akko and Diana have caught up to the hate missile, and it fires like some chompy missile things at them that they dodge. The broom has reached maximum magic level at this point, and like Diana does this sweet move to the back of the broom and like pushes Akko up into the front, and she's like standing on front of the broom, and like the shiny rod comes out of the broom into her hands, and then like the hate missile starts firing another volley of the chompy things at them, and Akko turns them into like cute stuffed animals and stuff. And then it fires another volley, but this one comes from the side, and Diana does a bunch of fancy flying to dodge them. And slowly through this little scene of her flying all fancy, like Akko does slowly start turning all these into cute stuffed animals also. But at this, the hate missile then changes up tactics and transforms itself into multiple big missiles. It basically split off into like, I don't know, 8. And at times it looks like it split off into 20. Who knows? Akko then like jumps off the broom, transforms into a mouse to run across one of the missiles, and then transforms the missile into like a giant whale. She then jumps onto another missile using her flying elephant form and transfers that one into a bunch of like flight fairies or something. Then one of the missiles sideswipes them, and Akko is like, she gets back to the broom, and then a missile sideswipes him, and Akko's knocked off the broom. Diana is like trying to go after her, but she's just getting completely overwhelmed by the hate missiles. We briefly see Akko suddenly like disappear with a flash of light shaped like a bird, and Diana finally gets knocked from the broom also. But when she does, the broom and the shiny rod transform into like a sword. So as Diana is falling through the air, Akko catches her riding that crazy broom from the earlier race episode. It came out of nowhere. That's cool. I don't care.
I like that came back. I was like, wait, did Akko just learn how to fly? I was like, oh no, it's like the auto flying broom.
Yeah, it's the legendary broom as they refer to it. Yeah, but and then Akko catches the sword broom wand and then leads the missile on like a chase. The hate missile can't catch her and transforms back into the one giant missile to, I guess, make it faster and try to catch him. And then there's this cool quick montage of like everybody pouring their feelings toward Akko and Diana. And like all the magic forms Yggdrasil. And together, Akko and Diana chant the spell Noctu Orphe Ade Frete, and it transformed into a giant bow. And this is so funny because I had to keep coming back and adding to this spell because they stretched this spell out between multiple like camera angles and changes.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, Noctu Orphe, okay. And I'm typing the rest of it. I'm like, wait, Ade. And I'm typing some more. I'm like, Frete. And I'm like, is there any more? So yeah, it transforms into the giant bow, and like in unison, the two girls, it's pretty epic, yell shiny arc, and they draw it out, and they're both just yelling in unison. It is super cool. They yell shiny arc and fire the bow straight into the mouth of the hate missile. The hate missile like blows up with like a giant smiley face. It was funny.
I liked that smiley face. That was really funny.
Yeah, so like stars of light fall from the sky all around the world, and they turn to like magic butterflies, and everybody's like, ooh, ha. And then like we see Paul apologize to his son Andrew and ask for his future opinions on the values of the witches. So that's cool.
Yeah, it was nice that he realized he was kind of wrong about them.
Yeah. And then these things happen a little bit later on. Qual like admits magic was a far greater thing than she imagined. And like also Professor Woodward was like floating above them, smiling. And then like up in the air with Akko and Diana, the shiny rod turns into stars and flies up to make a constellation. So it's like it disappeared, I guess.
Yeah, Akko kind of just like, she gives it away, the shiny rod. I think that was kind of important. Like she didn't even want to keep it. She realized like, oh, you did your job. And she kind of lifts it up. Well,
it started to kind of do its disappearance thing in her hand. And she had like a quick look of like being really sad. Then she's like, no, this is the right thing. And then like, yeah, lifts it up.
Yeah.
So the head witches are now seeing Qual off, who is going to clean up her messes and will only return once she has found a cure for Wagandia's curse, which is that curse that won't let Chariot fly anymore. And
that's
then
a pretty cool thing for her to go do.
Yeah, she needs to right her wrongs. And then we finally end with something that Bcom and I have just been saying the entire season. We end with
they knew.
Oh god! So we end with Akko still trying to fly, and like she's invited everybody, and I mean everybody, to come and check it out. And like Andrew shows up and he has her hat, and then like everybody's standing around and Latte tells her, you know, you gotta believe in her heart. And like she starts laughing and like it suddenly like makes her hover and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, and actually not just everybody, like Constance actually talked. She actually said like one word when she saw this, like the first thing she'd ever said in the show. I was happy about that.
I did not catch that. I must have been sighing too heavily in relief after writing this 2.25 page synopsis.
Yeah, it was super quick. Very, very quick. But it was funny that like Trigger gave us like the two things we like really wanted right at the end, like Akko learning how to fly and Constance like finally saying a word.
Oh, you didn't really want Akko and Diana to hook up?
No, not at all. I'm not part of that shipping thing. It's all over the internet. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah,
it's all over my Twitter feed.
It's like not even just the internet. It's like you go like Anime Expo is going on right now, and you just see like Diana and Akko cosplays walking around with each other, and then just like posing, you know. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But yeah. Oh yeah, so like that whole sequence where like Akko was like changing into a mouse and like running up the missile and then like changing into like a little elephant, that was pretty awesome. It was like bang 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 bang, quick animation.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on there. That's why I made sure to get that specifically in here.
Yeah, and I think just like the missile blowing up and turning into like a huge smiley face and like the Earth's like stratosphere was like just the perfect way to represent what that was. I just thought it was so good. I don't know, like this whole series has made me smile, but like this episode in particular like really made me smile, like with all the girls coming together and just like the fucking multi-stage rocket thing was so crazy and funny. It's like, where did these girls study multi-stage rockets? Like, was that in like the first year of Witch Academy or?
Well, Constance clearly knew what they was. So.
yeah. I like that her and like Qua like kind of worked together to put together this thing because
it's a super quick clip. If you glance away, you'd miss it. But yeah, you'd see the two of them building it together.
Got, like wrenches and hammers out or whatever. Yeah. But it was good. I wish there was a little bit more resolution with Andrew and Akko. Like I actually, what I wanted in that final scene was because Andrew's like kind of like the last one to arrive, and I wanted Akko to look over to him and then like hear what Lotte said and then laugh, and then the power of love makes her fly. That's what I would have liked. But it's okay. It was still pretty good.
Yeah. My bottom line, everybody, it's on Netflix. At least as currently the first 13 episodes are. Go watch it.
Go watch it. Go watch that show.
Let's do Mondays.
Grimoire of Zero, episode 12, uniquely called The Grimoire of Zero. So this episode opens where the last one left off, with 13 trying to explain what Serena did in the past, saying that like she would have known that stopping the plague would make the villagers suspicious of her, and she also would have known that her death because of the angry villagers would begin the war with the witches and the people of Wenius. So he assumes that she must have had like a plan that she could see through to the future, because she wouldn't be the kind of person who would start a war for no reason, or she wouldn't want to start a war. So perhaps she thought the world would end up in a better place overall because of her actions. Mercenary interrupts, saying like the war isn't going to stop for us, like we need to get a move on. So they decide to split up into like two groups and complete the 4 other summoning circles that make up the star. They initially like break into 2 groups, but they kind of like all go their separate ways. Like they break up into like 13 Mercenary and Zero, and then Hold'em and Albus, but they all go to like separate points of the star basically, and they plan to meet back in the center once they're done. As they set out, the battle commences, and for some reason, Albus is like openly weeping as she walks towards her destination, which kind of seemed random to me. Like, I get why she might be upset right now, but I don't understand why she was just like weeping to herself. Did you get anything from that? I think she's
just coming to, I forget the word. Coming to, I don't know, accept the situation she's in.
I guess so, yeah. For some reason, 13 and Hold'em meet back up first before everybody else. They get back first. So Hold'em, even though he's already had 13 explain everything to him, like is still pissed and just like tackles him and like holds a sword over him like he wants to stab him. But before he does, 13 tells him that he can see like the wolf's soul that Serena implanted in him, and tells him that it's quite beautiful to see like her work. And this throws Hold'em off, and like he stabs down really hard, but it's like just next to 13's head, and he like gets off him. He tells 13 that his punishment will be that over the course of his long witch's lifetime, he'll feel the regret of all of his actions. And I was like, okay, I guess that's decent enough. Zero and Mercenary make it back next, but Albus is running late. They start their preparations without her, and 13 and Zero warn that they will be defenseless during the ritual. So at that point, like the entire army of the Sorcerers of Zero, or like a lot of them, looks down from a nearby cliff. Like they're not even that far away, so like they don't have much time. But so Mercenary and Hold'em are determined to hold them off. The Sorcerers, instead of just like rushing them for whatever reason, they just unleash like a bunch of caged beasts like bears and tigers that have been driven mad with like magic spells. Meanwhile, at the capital, there's like another part of the Sorcerer's army that are in a stalemate with the castle's troops. And the Sorcerers have demanded like turn over 13 to us, but he isn't there, so the castle guard doesn't know what to do. And like one guard is like, I wish they would just withdraw peacefully, but the other guy's like, no, like this is our best opportunity to wipe out the witches. Meanwhile, Albus has completed her circle at her like star point, wherever it is, and she's like kind of sitting down in front of the tree, and again just like kind of like crying to herself. 13 and Zero continue their incantation back at the center, and Mercenary fights off like a bear and a moose, and then Hold'em fends off like a pack of wolves, and like they have this brief conversation about how getting eaten by an animal and turned into shit that fertilizes the ground wouldn't be so different from being buried in a proper grave anyway. So it would be an okay way to die, they think. The Sorcerers launch like a huge volley of magical arrows towards the center, towards 13 and Zero. And even though 13 said like they'd be defenseless, he's able to take his attention off the ritual for just a second to create this big mass of earth that blocks all of the arrows in front of him like a shield. He just like turns to like Mercenary and says like, hey, do your job. Meanwhile, at the capital, the troops have murdered the Sorcerer's messenger, that prompts everybody to just like rush the castle gates. So like the battle is raging on there. Mercenary and Hold'em are terrified to see that the next step in the Sorcerer's attack on them is that they have this huge group of Ebelboars, which are like massive boars, posed to strike. And Mercenary asks Zero, like, how much more time do you need? But apparently they can't complete the ritual with their power alone. They need to wait for Albus, and they're like, just believe in her. And luckily, of course, she shows up just in time. Albus tells 13 that she doesn't forgive him for what he's done, but as a witch, she'll use him to end the war that her grandmother would never have wanted to start in the first place. And Zero tells them the last thing they'll need to do is summon the demon that sponsors the Grimoire of Zero. And what they'll need is a sacrifice of the highest quality. So Zero tells Mercenary that she can use his body, and that if he trusts her, she won't kill him, basically, in the process. And Mercenary's response is, I don't want to. And then like giant Ebelboars start like charging down the hill towards them, and he tells Zero that of course he wouldn't do it if she only asked nicely. And then Zero's like, she smiles and she's like, well then I order you to do it. And he's like, well, I can't say no to an order. And he sits down in the middle of like the summoning circle, and she starts the ritual. The summoning begins. Zero asks the nameless demon to deny magic throughout the kingdom. And the demon speaks through Mercenary. Like there's like white speed lines as they're doing this, and you could see like a scary face on Mercenary, and like the demon says like, I grant you this power. It's been too long, my beloved. So this demon has the hots for Zero. A force field extends out across this kingdom that removes all the magic. So it was successful. And afterwards, they just skip ahead. Like afterwards, Zero holds Mercenary's head in her lap and just like petting him and telling him he did a good job. He's basically unconscious. And 13 tells Albus that chaos will continue for some time now that magic has been removed. And I thank the show for realizing that, because like if you think about like the battle that was going on at the castle between all those sorcerers and like the troops, like if magic was removed from that situation, they would still keep fighting. and like the sorcerers would probably get like just destroyed. So like,
I'm assuming they just gave up as soon as they lost their magic.
Yeah, unless they like surrendered, but I don't think like those troops would immediately just, like make them prisoners. They'd probably just keep slaughtering them.
I mean, they didn't have like weapons or nothing. So like as soon as their magic went away, they all get held at sword point. So I mean,
yeah, I guess so. So let's see. Hilariously, Albus says that she will step forward to become the leader. I was like, yeah, okay, you can become a leader, please. You've shown no like ability to be a leader up to this point. Like no one wants to follow you at all. So whatever. The only reason Albus thinks that she can be a leader is because of her grandmother. But she wants to make Venius a country where witches and humans can live in harmony. Yeah. 13 believes this is the future Serena would have wanted. So Mercenary finally wakes up after 3 days. And he's in like a bedroom in like the capital. And Zero has been by his side the whole time. And the kingdom is holding a festival to celebrate the eradication of the witches. So Zero tells Mercenary that she can't turn him back into a human anymore because the demon that entered his body made his beast soul more strongly fused to his own existence. And then also her magical power has been weakened by like removing most of the magic from the world. So he's like, shit. Damn it. Zero's plan is to explore the world to see where else magic has spread because she feels it's her responsibility as the one who brought magic into the greater world to go there and either remove it or like see if it's doing all right, basically, I would assume. But of course she says, it would be dangerous if I went alone though. And so Mercenary narrates what happens next. It's like basically Albus becomes a sorcerer of the state, which was basically 13's position. And her first act is to put 13 up on a stake in the middle of the square. And you think that like she's going to burn him at the stake. It's actually really confusing, this whole scene, but it makes sense in the end. Mercenary, Mercenary narrates it as if like, oh yeah, and then Albus burned 13 at the stake, and he's like, oh, just joking. Albus announces that she refuses to burn another witch at the stake in front of the huge crowd, and like delivers this message of peace. But then says, with the death of 13, I light a fire of peace between humans and witches. So she's saying that like she doesn't want to take another life after 13. I guess she's saying like 13 will be the final sacrifice for the crowd's purposes. Like this is what she's saying.
I think there was just some weird translation between Japan and from Japanese to English.
Yeah, because I think what she was trying to say is like, okay, we're going to kill 13 and that's going to be the end of it. That's going to be the end of these witch executions. Like he's going to be the last one, because what happens is Albus lights like the pyre on fire, but there's a trap door underneath. And I assume that 13 is like projecting an image of himself on like the crucifix. But he's underneath and he did not get killed. It was just for show, basically. So it's kind of weird. That whole sequence was a little strange. And then 13 like talks with Mercenary underneath, and he tells Albus, well, before this, he tells Albus that like he would accept a death by her hand, and Albus tells him like, I'm not going to kill you. And then Albus lights the fire. He gets through the trap door, and he tells like, what is it? He delivers a final warning to Mercenary, telling him that if Zero comes to hate the world, I will destroy it all. Just saying like, don't hurt my little girl. A magic education program is started to deal with any magical problems that might arise in the future if magic were to return. I'm kind of confused on like who's teaching these courses. Is it like former sorcerers, I guess, maybe would be teaching the courses, and what book they're using? Like, because like the Grimoire of Zero doesn't have any power anymore. Are they're studying the Grimoire of Zero in case like the power is brought back? Just like the whole logistics of this didn't make sense to me. I also don't understand why Zero still has magical powers, or 13. Like if they removed magic from the world, I guess they only removed the magic on the world that was based on the Grimoire of Zero.
Well, no, Zero says even with her grand spells earlier when she's with Mercenary that it'll take her a while to get back to up to 100%.
Yeah, so I guess like they each had magic before Zero wrote the Grimoire of Zero. So Like, the magic that was spread throughout the greater world was based on that book, and they took away that book's magic. So they still have their own magic, I guess, is what is happening. But still, I don't really understand what these people in the Magic Academy would be studying and who's teaching them. They didn't really make that clear.
No, they're all relearning magic. They can.
But which magic?
Yeah, it was just canceled out there, so they have to like relearn it, I guess, to get their magic powers back.
But relearn from who and what type of magic? Because they can't relearn the Grimoire of Zero because that magic's gone forever. They have to relearn like whatever magic they had, the sorcerers in the cave had.
I don't think it's gone forever. Did the sorcerers
from the cave come out? Huh?
I don't think it was gone. It's gone forever. They were just canceling out the magic that people had then. Like, I'm guessing you have to go through like rituals and stuff to regain your magic back, or to get it in the first place at all.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't know how long the cancellation lasts or whatever.
I didn't think about it on too much because it didn't really stand out to me.
Yeah. So, let's see. In the end, Mercenary and Zero like say goodbye and leave to everybody else, and they leave to go on their own journey. They're going off together. And for some reason, Albus, when she says goodbye to Mercenary, gives him a kiss on the cheek, and he shakes her hand goodbye. And Hold'em freaks the fuck out because he's like really possessive over Albus and chases Mercenary around with a sword. Zero runs along Mercenary, pleading, "Kiss me too, kiss me too." And Mercenary tells her no. And then he thought that she was in love with 13. And she's like, I don't know where he got the idea that she was in love with 13. Like, that seems like a crazy conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
But Zero reveals that 13 is her older brother, basically.
She's like, what? He's my older brother.
This is like Leia telling Han Solo that Luke was her brother, basically. So it's okay. You can get in there, Mercenary, and screw that little girl. Good for you. After the ED, Zero tells Mercenary that she's decided to make him her manservant. She's going to bind him by name and make him hers for all eternity. And so she asks for his name, but he refuses. And then she asks if he wants to know her name. He's like, I'm not interested. And she asks if he doesn't want hers, and if he tells her that no matter what. Oh, she asks if he doesn't want to be hers, basically, like to be made her manservant. And he tells her
such a sideways way of like marrying each other. Is how I took it.
Yeah, he tells her that no matter what she does, he's already her mercenary. So they're already like bound together
through sickness and health.
Yeah. Zero says it's probably a good thing that he was a beast warrior all along, since the fact that he hated witches meant that he wasn't swayed by her tremendous beauty. And he tells her he wishes she'd just been a normal girl, but she says that she would have probably feared him and he might have like just eaten her like the moment he saw her. And he's like, yeah, you might be right. I was like, what?
I don't know.
Such a douche. Mercenary thinks that it might be all right to stay a beast fallen just a little while longer. And that's how it ends. What'd you think about this episode, this finale?
It's fine.
Yeah,
I don't think the show's bad.
It was fine. Yeah.
I don't think the show's bad, but
yeah. I think it had some like weird fan service in the middle of the show. Like, I remember at the very first episode of the show being very excited about where it could potentially go. And in the end, I don't think it really did that much. Like, it didn't go huge places. And I'll have more to say about like what I think were like the biggest problems with the show when we review it at the end. But yeah. It was okay final episode. It was like, fantasy show, generic final episode.
Cool. Let's do Sakura Quest, episode 13, The Marionette's Banquet. So Yoshino, Maki, and Sane, they go to talk to some of the campers and see what the deal is. They're camping because there aren't any hotels, so they have lodging problems. And they also have to get up early to get in line to get limited edition items with the bands. And then, like, just real quick at the scene, Yoshino warns them that sometimes bears show up.
Yeah.
So the band shows up the next day, and we see them meeting the girls, and it's all being filmed for the little show and stuff. And then, like, Kadota is going to, like, ruin everything like he does. But before he can, like, the producers step in and, like, hustle them off to go eat some, like, eel or something like that. Did you have any eel when you were in Japan? Or
when I was in Japan, I might have had some eel sushi. but I don't think I had any eel there. I like eel avocado sushi a lot back here, mostly because of the really sugary sauce they put on it, though.
So anyways, like the festival is well underway and all the girls are busy. Maki's like managing the volunteers and Riri's helping Angelica out at the moment. And then Yoshino is getting dressed up in her queen outfit so she can do a speech later. And like we just see Shiori like at the front of the festival, and she's like amazed when like the fleet of the shuttle buses show up to help out with the event, because they like only have the one bus and they can't manage all the people. So the producers got some more shuttle buses and stuff like that. So Yoshino walks out on stage, and she has like this super sad look on her face, but when she looks up, she's amazed by like all the people that are attending her speech. She gives her little speech, and they proceed with their own national anthem and raising of their flag.
That was weird.
And like even the people in the audience are like finding the town kind of interesting, and they're like, well, I'll plan on checking out some of the other things around here. We'll wait for the concert. So there's all kinds of things going on at the event. The shop owners seem to be doing well with their stands. They're pretty busy. There's like fishing on the river and what looks like a small fishing contest. You see them like measuring some of the large fish they've caught. They even have that drum dancing with sticks thing from Tsuki got snore. Changed it.
Leo had written Tsuki got Snorefest in the Google document, so like as he was saying it, I like corrected it to Kirei.
I saw it. Yeah, so anyways, I was going to say they even have that drum dancing with sticks thing from Tsuki got Snorefest.
We're fighting that battle all to the end.
Jesus. We see like some old dude singing on stage, and like the girls are standing to the side clapping. And like even Kadota is actually looking over at the whole festival and actually is looking happy for once. I'm not sure he's ever smiled up until this point.
Like rarely, or if it was like a conniving kind of smile.
Yeah. But this is like a genuine smile. So they're getting ready to start the trivia contest when Yoshino finds out that the concert is having trouble with their equipment and it hasn't even started yet. They were betting on when the concert over for everybody to come over. So this is bad because it might overlap with the trivia contest. But Yoshino decides to go ahead as planned. The quiz show opens with Yoshino and Maki doing the introduction. It's actually pretty good. And just as they do the first question, one of the people working at the concert shows up with a megaphone and announces that the concert will start in just a moment. Just about everybody leaves, as you would assume would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the girls still go on trying to do their quiz show, but like the concert is so loud it's drowning them out. And like people can't even hear them through their megaphones because the concert's that big.
Yeah.
But eventually the concert finally ends, and they got 4 volunteers from the crowd on stage, or however they did their thing, for the final question. And one of them is Sandal-san, who wins the whole thing.
Okay, Sandal-san should not have been fucking allowed to participate. Sandal-san is from the town. It's totally cheating for him to take place in the town's trivia contest.
Yeah, but at this point, I don't know if anybody not from the town's in there.
Oh man, that was lame. I didn't like that. But they do kind of address that. Like,
yeah, they have a funny thing. Yeah, because at one point Riri's like, we'll just make him give it back.
Yeah. Because what is he wins like a trip for 2 to Guam, right? Yeah,
a trip for 2 to Guam. And when asked who he will be taking with him, he says Mr. Kendachi, who's like out in the crowd, and he's like, what? Me?
Like, why me?
So like everybody's leaving, and Yoshino goes to thank the board of merchants for their help, and they did a pretty good job themselves. They made a decent amount of money, I guess. So they are happy with the event also. Yoshino tells them they're throwing an after party and everybody's welcome to come. At the after party, Yoshino is asked to make a speech about the event. She thinks there's room for improvement, but it's overall success. The next day, Yoshino is kind of bummed how the previous day was so eventful and had so many people, but now it seems like the town's almost abandoned again. She discusses this with the other girls and says not to worry since the producer said tourism will pick back up when they air the episode.
Yeah, they also think like the coupons that they gave out will bring people back too.
Yeah, that's what they're betting on. But it turns out like after a couple of days, like only 20 out of like the 1,000 they gave away has been cashed in. And it was just mostly the local residents.
Yeah.
But the episode finally airs and everybody's either at home or gathered to watch the episode. The girls get really bummed that the episode didn't show anything about the trivia contest. That was kind of like one of the things they really wanted out there, knowledge about the town. And then after talking over with everybody, Yoshino feels like it wasn't a success at all.
Yeah, like we also see like, so the director is watching like the show with his producer back at like the studio.
Yep.
And the director seems like angry about how it turned out. Like the show focused on the band, basically. It focused on like how the band saved this like crappy little town and how these girls like contacted the band and brought the band there. And like none of this was true, basically. And I just want to say, like, the director seemed angry about the way it turned out, but there's one problem with that. He's the director. It's like, so they either needed to make it more clear that the producer, like, had pressured him to, like, only include parts about Ptolemaios, the band.
Well, also, we had earlier shots of he was trying to get footage of the trivia contest, but couldn't get any good footage. Like, there was the point where, like, everybody left for the concert, and he's like, he grabs the camera guy's camera and like pushes it down, like, don't record this. This isn't good.
That's the other thing I agree about is that like the girls should not have expected him to include the trivia contest because the trivia contest was awful. It was a disaster. Like it didn't go off well. Like there was plenty of noise from the concert in the background. There was like no usable footage, but he did shoot a lot of other footage of like the girls as they were like going through their planning and all these like really nice things. Like their meetings with like Oribe and like the merchant board were like pretty interesting. He shot all that footage, but it just turns out in the end that it seems like a story where like, oh, this cool hot new band saved this like terrible town from being like terrible for one day.
Really, how they should have ended the episode was with like the director or the producer at the very end saying, oh yeah, and all these girls from the tourism board are single. And just ending it.
That'd be really
but
funny.
There's the very final scene where I think it's just later that day that we see her board the bus with her suitcase and she says she wants to go to the station. And it's just a cliffhanger ending. But then in the previews for the next episode, she's still in the town. So I don't know what that was about. I'm going to assume she got to the station and there were people actually coming into the town.
I thought it was either going to be that or she was going to go to the city to talk with the director of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like it's going to be misleading in some way because it totally looks like she's leaving, but it doesn't really make sense that she would.
I would lean towards your explanation is that she'll get to the station and then somebody will change her mind. Basically saying like, you did your best kind of thing, you know? It turned out.
Yeah. Or she gets there and there's like 20 people getting off the train to check out the town. So.
Yeah, I can see how she would be like crushed by that. I mean, after setting this whole big thing up and like putting so much work into it and then like a couple of people came back with the coupons. But the other thing is that like, hey, they sold a bunch of stuff. Like while the people were there, like this is how things work. Like you do everything you can before the concert. Like the trivia contest also should have been before the concert. Like that was a huge mess up in their planning.
Their original thing was to do it after the concert when everybody would just leave.
Yeah, everybody's just going to leave at that point.
No, it should have been before. It should have been something they could have done while they waited on the concert.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just written in for plot point, I guess. But
I think so too, yeah. Let's move on to the next show. Wait, isn't this show over?
No, we found out they're doing something else. It's Biso Shoujo Machiavellianism, episode 9000. Bcom has been pulled into the world of Machiavellianism and been transformed into one of the girls to be added to Nomura's harem. Will Bcami and his new little girl pink-haired twin tails body be able to fend off Nomura and his abusive advances? Be sure to watch and find out as Bcami is put through one horribly womanizing, borderline rapey scene one after another. I want to watch this.
To quote Nier Automata and their like little cute robots, this cannot continue. This cannot continue. This cannot continue. Also, I just want to say, as a final note on Busou Shoujo Machiavellianism, at no point did this show ever have anything to do with Machiavellianism. Just wanted to put that out there. At any point. What a title. Thank you, Japan, for this wonderful show. Let's move on. Thursdays, we got Tsuki ga Kill Me. Oh, wait, sorry, Kirei. I'm sorry.
That was or Leo. Snorfest, or my experiment episode.
Episode 12, called And Then. Yeah, let's see. So this episode begins.
I'll let you do your thing, and then I'll say my bit at the end. Because
you basically did your bit in the last podcast, too, as the other thing. So
no, I didn't go into detail.
So, okay.
I told you at the end of some of my ideas.
Kotaro was not accepted to Kome, despite his best efforts. So that's kind of a realistic thing to happen. He didn't just get like the dream ending where he would get to go to school with Akane. So he meets up with her and he apologizes like, I didn't make it. basically, he says. And she thanks him for all of his hard work, telling him it was more than enough. And Kotaro tells her he's going to apply to a municipal school, so he's going to follow his parents' wishes. The bookstore dude suggests this to Kotaro that he should write about this experience and that it might make him feel better. Akane's sister is at home with her and tells her, like, hey, this is just the way things go sometimes. And she asks if Akane plans to try to do long distance with Kotaro and tells her, boys just think of that as a hassle. And I, like, honestly, sometimes she's right. Like, it really comes down to individual people. You can't just say that all guys hate long distance relationships. It's just not true. I've seen friends that have had it work out. Ayane tells Akane to just break up, which is kind of harsh, and Akane throws a pillow at her and says, "You're being a jerk," which is true. There's this funny moment where Akane is looking through her pictures on her phone and sees one where she used an app to put dog ears and dog nose on her face, which is kind of funny. And Kotaro texts her and asks her what's up, and she just sends him this dog face picture, which makes him laugh. And he texts back, quote, "That gives me strength," fist bump emoji. The next day, all the texting in this series is just so spot on. I think they just really get it. The next day, Kotaro finds out he got into the municipal high school. It also turns out that Chinatsu got into the same one, and she kind of like grabs him by the shoulders and celebrates with him. And at this point, I was thinking maybe the show is going to go like a hyper realistic route, and like something that would happen in real life, have Akane and Kotaro decide to go their separate ways, and then he just gets together with Chinatsu like you would expect if they went to school together and focused on each other instead, which I don't think would have been the worst ending. Like, I think I totally could have seen it going that way. I would have respected the show a lot if it had just decided to go with that, because that's something that happens all the time. So Chinatsu walks home with Kotaro. She tells him she's super excited to go to the same school as him. And then she goes a little too far, saying, "I feel bad for Akane, though." And she like realizes she's like kind of overstepped her bounds. She asks if it's okay to talk about, and asks what he's going to do with Akane. And he says he wants to keep things the same with her. And then at this point, Chinatsu just drops all pretense and finally like goes in for the kill, basically. She says, like, "I have something I just need to tell you properly." And she pauses, and this like, it's kind of like a really romantic scene. Like a gust of wind blows by, like there's a long pause, and Kotaro kind of realizes what's coming. And she tells him, like, "I've always liked you." She like just barrels in towards him and grabs him in a hug and like buries her face in his shoulder in embarrassment. And to make things even more awkward, she like looks up and says, "Would I not be good enough?" Saying like, am I not as good as Akane? Like, can you just, relax and like go with me instead? Of course,
and
Kotaro
you want to talk about putting him on the spot. Fuck.
Yeah, that she really put him on the spot. Yeah. Kotaro had like no idea how to react. He doesn't return her hug. He like drops his hands down to his side and just says sorry. Chinatsu, like, good for her, actually shrugs it off and says like she's just really glad to have gotten that all out. And she tells him she'll see him in high school. So anyway, Chinatsu texts Akane to tell her she got into high school, and then, which is the title of the episode, she confessed to Kotaro. Thankfully, she just quickly follows it up saying, like, he rejected me, of course. And I thought it was also cute that Chinatsu's line avatar was Usain Bolt, because of course it would be. Chinatsu apologizes and asks Akane if she still will be her friend, and Akane just says she will, even though like it's kind of like a crappy thing that she actually did confess to her boyfriend. She gets a text from Kotaro asking if she wants to hang out now that exams are over. And you can tell already that Akane is like a little disappointed that he didn't mention what happened with Chinatsu. Back at home, Kotaro is writing about everything that's happened between him and Akane. He's like writing this grand story of like their whole relationship. You can pause and read it, and it's funny because like he has like lines in there like calling God a troll but thanking that jerk for setting him up with Akane on equipment duty. I was like, yeah, teenager, like a middle schooler definitely wrote this. Everyone says goodbye to each other at graduation. Hira notably tells Akane that he'll see her on the field if she keeps running in high school. So Kotaro's like continuing to write this story, and he has to submit it to this like web portal And he calls the story, the title of it, 13.70, or Akane's like track time. And he's just submitting it to like a website that hosts like fan written light novels, or basically are like, non-professional written novels. He meets up with Akane, and she's happy to see him like wearing her scarf that she knitted for him, and she's moving tomorrow, so it's like down to the wire here. He tells her like, I'm gonna visit you every other week, like or every week actually, he says. And she's just like, the train fare kind of costs a lot. He's like, oh, I'll get a job, it'll be fine. He just keeps trying to reassure her that everything is going to be the same. It's only a 2-hour train ride, and he'll take the first train, and we have a line messenger as well. And honestly, I was thinking, like, in this day and age, like, long distance relationships are insanely easier than they used to be. You've got video messengers like Skype and stuff, so you can constantly see each other. You have like cell phones and text messaging, like all these ways to stay in touch. Like, you're just not in the same space together. But I hear stories all the time of people making long distance relationships work. And also, a 2-hour train ride in Japan is like nothing. That's seriously nothing. Like, so you're not even that far away. But Akane is clearly nervous about this, and she just starts to break down and let it out. And she tells Kotaro that she feels like he's taking on this whole burden, and like she starts to cry, and she asks him if Chinatsu confessed to him, and Kotaro admits that she did, and she asks him like, why didn't you tell me? And he responds that he turned her down, but like she still thinks like she should have told her that. And like she cries and tells him that she gets worried, and she just like starts letting it all out. She's just like starts bawling. Kotaro is basically perplexed. Akane tells him that she keeps getting anxious, that she's causing trouble for him, and that it hurts her like the most, that she's hurting him. And she asks like what she should do, and she like just crying, tears streaming down her face. She like runs and gives him a kiss, which I think she feels is like a last kiss. And then she just runs away because she's so embarrassed. And she gets like a fair distance away, and then just like lets it all out. And even the potato squeezy is not going to save this situation. She's holding it in her hand, but it's not going to do anything. And I felt that Kotaro made a big mistake in that moment by not chasing after her. He didn't try to run after her because I guess he was confused about everything and had a lot to think about himself. And that's a big mistake. Like, if girl's crying like that, you go after her, dude. Yeah, maybe he'll learn that eventually. He lays in bed. He's not able to sleep. He wants to text Akane, but doesn't know what to say, so he just does nothing. And then the next day, we see Akane's house. It's like emptying out as they're going through the process of moving. And also, there's this kind of interesting scene where she's looking at her empty bedroom, and like the little potato squeezy thing she always has on her is just sitting on the windowsill. And her mom yells upstairs to ask, like, hey, do you have everything? And she looks at the squeezy and she says yes. And it looks like she's going to leave it behind, basically.
I didn't get that. Why? I thought she was going to leave it behind, but I don't know why.
I think she wanted to leave her memories of Kotaro behind, and also maybe her childhood behind in general, and just like leave all of that behind, and with like this little squeezy thing being like the symbol of that is what I got out of it. Meanwhile, at Kotaro's house, he has his own like potato squeezy that Chinatsu gave him, and he's squeezing it, trying to make himself feel better. I don't think it's actually really working for him though. Chinatsu and Aoi, her track friends, see Akane off, and Chinatsu and Akane start crying, which makes Aoi cry. And yeah, moving away from your friends, especially at this age, is really hard. So I could see this situation.
But we already had this scene at the track meet.
Yeah, we kind of did, but this is like the real one where it's like, okay, this is the final time we're going to see each other for a while kind of scene. Her parents tell her that she can catch a later train so she can spend more time with her friends. So Chinatsu asks her about Kotaro, and like before she can say anything, Chinatsu whips out her phone and shows Akane like, hey, I found this story on the internet called 13.70. And we see like Akane starts reading it. She sees the subtitle of the story is like, she was a 100-meter sprinter. And when she set a new personal record, I was so ecstatic that I could have been the one who ran. I thought that was a pretty good subtitle, actually. Better than most fucking light novels these days. Akane begins reading the story and realizes it's about her and Kotaro. And we back at Kotaro's house. He makes like the final post at the end of the story. And then we see him like dancing at festival practice, going through his normal routine. And as they're finishing up, like his dude, the mentor dude from the bookstore, asks him like, hey, wasn't Akane's move today? And he says he also read the story, and he shows Kotaro that he's gotten quite a few comments. And so Kotaro scrolls through the comments, and there's a lot of people saying like, hey, I love stories like this. I want more, blah, blah, blah. And he comes to one comment from a submitter named Akane, which just asks, so what happens next? And I'm not going to lie, like from this point on in the episode, I was basically crying because it's really fucking good. So Kotaro runs to try to find Akane before she leaves. He gets a text from Chinatsu, who just saw her off at the train station, saying she just went through the gates. And he runs towards the station. In his mind, he thinks like of one more Dazai quote, like saying like the true substance of love lies in the act of howling words of love with the desperation of a man jumping into high seas.
I assume at this point, Dazai is just omnipotent.
Yeah, Dazai has written something for everything, and I just like made the note like, damn, Dazai is a good fucking writer. Should probably read some shit by Dazai after this. Akane has already boarded the train. She takes out her phone and she sees that she has a notification on the Become an Author app, the website portal that Kotaro used to post his story. And the notification is just that like he's posted the end of the story, basically. Kotaro is just like running. He's out of breath. He stops for a second and thinks of sending her a message through line, but he thinks better of it and he just keeps running. Akane gets to the end of the updated section. Kotaro's continuing to run like crazy, and she reads the ending saying, I want to tell her that no matter how far apart we are, my feelings for her will never change. And Kotaro finally reaches his destination, which is a spot that the JR train passes by that she's on. And Akane continues reading, and it says like, you're leaving for an unfamiliar town. And then it goes back to Kotaro. It's like intercutting, and he just like howls out, like Dazai said, "Daisuki da!" He yells it at the train as it passes by, saying like, "I love you." And Akane reads the next line, which says, "And I'll always love you," which was in his novel. And she breaks down in tears, and we see that in the end, she took her potato squeezy also, and it's on her messenger bag. So that was like another cute little throw in, like she didn't throw her memories of him away. So Kotaro reflects that she was his first love. This is just like inner monologue, and he knew nothing. And Akane has like a similar inner monologue saying like Kotaro found the courage to tell her, and that she felt that they could walk together forever. And Kotaro just like in the end muses like, to think that someone I loved would love me back. And then the show ends with a really interesting montage of line messages back and forth. I didn't get quite like the first time I watched it what was happening. I had to like go back, because what it is like Kotaro and Akane staying in touch as they get older. And you can see like the nickname for her in his line messages.
You see, this was the story I'd be more interested in.
Yeah, he changes from like his girlfriend to the wife, like so they get married, and then like the final picture of the episode is them back home with their parents holding a newborn baby at a festival as they're married. So I'm not gonna lie, I had to rewatch this because in that final shot, grown-up Kotaro looks exactly like Hira. Like exactly like the same hair. He's more lanky because he's taller. So I was like, wait, did they just make Akane get together with Hira and Kotaro get together with Chinatsu? That's what I actually thought was initially happening. I thought like that their love had ended, and then like Kotaro went off to high school and got with Chinatsu, and Hira met up with Akane through track again and ended up with her. So I was so confused. I had to go back, and I was like, okay, no. That's not what happened. I would have totally respected that ending too. Like that ending would have absolutely worked for me because it would have been completely realistic.
If they did that, I felt like they would have had to explain it more though.
Yeah, I think they would have pissed a lot of people off too, but I would have loved it. I thought it would have been great. So yeah, I thought this episode was fantastic. I thought like the whole thing was a really fantastic exploration of like the fears of entering into a long distance relationship, and then like how it can actually work out if you're dedicated enough to it. I loved that Chinatsu didn't hold back in the end, and she did confess to Kotaro. And often in these kinds of shows, I would be like really angry at Shinatsu's character for like trying to get in the way at the last second. But it was all set up. She had like Akane's permission to do this, like, and it's something that she just felt she needed to do. And I was almost rooting for her, which is why I felt like if he had ended up with her, I would have accepted it. And yeah, let's see. Do you have any thoughts on this one before I go on to the rest of what I have to say?
Just what I have written down.
Mm-hmm.
So last episode, I said I skipped episode 11. I wanted to see how important these episodes were. It was just a random pick. So I watched episode 12 with like a hyper awareness, and long story short, not one thing that happened in episode 11 did I need to know to watch episode 12. The only thing that came close was the scarf, which the way she looked at it, I was like, oh, she bought it for him or something like that. That was it.
Yeah.
But so anyways, I'm just going to read through my notes and just tell you my thoughts on it. So 5 minutes in, and was wondering what happened the last episode to fill 24 minutes. And this is also the most thought I put into the show because I'm really looking for stuff. I did like the scene with Chinatsu's confession. It had good drama and tension, not the cringe drama I get from the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. So I hit about the 10-minute mark, and I'm wondering if I did actually watch episode 11 and forgot because I'm like, there was literally no reason to watch episode 11. Crunchyroll says I didn't, so okay. And I made a note. I said, like, I should probably go back and check out the shorts because I like the shorts, but there's no shorts. Boo. I lost focus at one point. I had to rewind the scene with Akane breaking down and crying. I just wasn't paying attention. And then it just turned out it was just petty middle school, can't take seriously nonsense in my book. And to show you how much I pay attention to this show, just realized the main female role has the same name as one of my cats.
Yeah, one of your cats is named Akane.
Akane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't like the ending. It just, and like I said, that would have been the more interesting story. I'm just supposed to believe they stayed together the whole time. I didn't like that. There was also my Dazai is like, he must be omnipotent when he did that quote. And I think the part where I rolled my eyes so hard that my left one locked up and started twitching for a second, I think was the scene of him running. And then he yells out when the train goes by or something like that.
It is a trope. It is definitely a trope.
I was like, yeah. I was like, get out of here, show. Get out of here.
I think it was well done because for the entirety of the season, he had never spoken above a fucking whisper. So when he actually screams out, it had more power here than it has in other shows I've watched, to me at least.
Yeah, but anyways, then I'm sitting there and the credits are rolling, but I have to watch it to see what the ending is. And they basically could have skipped everything because that's the story I wanted, and they just could have shown the shot with them with their baby, and I could have filled in the rest. But don't worry, and Bcom and I have discussed why he loves it so much, why I hate it so much, because our middle school experiences are very different. You relate to it a whole ton. Mm-hmm. I relate to it not one bit.
Yeah.
My middle school relationship experience were darker. Everybody's cheating on everybody. There's backstabbing. Your best friends are backstabbing you and you backstab them back, but you still hang out with them on the weekend. It was a horrible experience. So to see this melancholy bullshit, I'm like, this is the most unreal thing I've ever seen. That's interesting. But don't worry, everybody. As soon as I finish this episode, I went and watched the surprise 13 episode of Interviews with Monster Girls to reclaim some of my soul back. And it was have you seen this episode yet? It is awesome.
I haven't seen it yet. I will watch it.
It's basically just shenanigans, and it cracked me up.
I'll just say I think this show benefited from being an original, so it didn't have to like most romances that are drawn from manga source have terrible pacing, at least because the manga one, if it's successful, it drags on. So what you get is you don't get any actual romance until the last episode, and then maybe you get a kiss then. And I liked the pacing of this show where we got them to be in a relationship and then have various problems with dealing with their group of friends, and then having them come together over the course and get through all these obstacles of long distance and thinking about what they want for their future individually and together. There's a lot of things that this show explored that a lot of anime romance shows don't ever explore. because they just don't have the proper pacing or the time. Like most manga would draw this thing out for 26 episodes and give us barely any closure. So I also thought it was interesting to see that as I was reading through this final episode's like subreddit thread, that the show, like before the final episode aired, was sitting at like a 7.96 on Mal. And then after the episode aired, today, when we're recording, is up to like an 8.36, which is a pretty damn big jump. And like a lot of Mal scores jump with the final episode because it's the first time a lot of people rate the show. But still, that's like a big positive jump. People really liked the ending of this show. And you could also see it reflected in like the Amazon.jp like Blu-ray and DVD orders for this show, which shot up like crazy after the final episode aired. And I think it speaks to the quality of the writing of this romance. A lot of romances just are cookie cutter. They follow a formula. You know what's coming, and you know that there's going to be all this drama that gets in the way. At every turn with this show, I felt like that the drama that they did bring in was like necessary, and then they resolved it fairly quickly and in a way that was realistic, even for middle schoolers. And yeah, I think it also speaks something that like I could have seen this show going both ways at the end, whereas with most romance, like you know exactly which way they're going by the end of the show. Like it's like so easy to tell. But so this one, I would have been happy with like a hyper realistic ending of Akane like moving on and getting with Hira, or Kotaro moving on and getting with Chinatsu,
which would kind of make sense since him and Chinatsu went to the same high school.
Yeah, they go to the same school. Like poor her. I hope hopefully they stayed friends. You know, hopefully they were able to do that, because it's kind of hard for people to do that sometimes. But anyway, that's my thoughts before we get to final scores. So move on to the next show. Fridays, we've got the continuing Rage of Bahamut Virgin Soul.
Woo!
Episode 13 is called A Farewell to Arms. So we pick up where we left off with Cherios's mysterious device emerging from the ground. This like huge ball, and Gabriel recognizes it as Dromos, which is like a weapon of mass destruction which was born from forbidden knowledge that humanity stole from the heavens. And she's clearly afraid of its power. She orders her whole army to just like immediately fall back. But they're like, we're so close to victory, why would we fall back? And she's like, well, we just got to leave them behind. She tries to retreat without them, but before she can, L just stops her. I love that Muguro can speak now, too. He's like, we haven't saved my mother yet. And so like he stops her from leaving. Our heroes are still on the surface of Dromos, and Rita spots Cherios and runs to see what he's doing. And he's in the process of activating the device, basically. His left eye lights up with a green magical circle, and the weapon starts to glow green with like powerful energy, and then starts to form like a giant hand. And like it has its palm out and like facing the where the angels are up in the sky at that big ring. So it fires off a huge green bolt of energy towards L. But he's still like determined to save his mother, and he gives off like a big light force field, and he's like holding it together. Jeanne d'Arc is actually able to see from where she is. She can briefly glimpse like the outline of L. He's got like red eyes, and he's just like a black silhouette against all of this light that he's letting off, but she can see that it's him. The impact with the green beam against his like force field causes a huge shockwave that just like starts like huge gust of wind, like impact. Nina is like launched through the air and goes flying directly into Cherios, which is kind of funny, and knocks him over. And at first, like L thinks that he can contain this blast, but the green energy just seems to seep like burrowing through his force field, and it just breaks through.
It's a constant stream of energy too.
Yeah, it just keeps streaming powerfully. And so like it breaks through, it hits the ring that all the angels use as a gate from heaven to earth, and it just starts floating down in this like fiery wreck, and Rita watches it as it just crashes into the ground, and there's like a huge explosion from it. Heaven's army looks on kind of like perplexed, like dumbfounded that this just happened. Cherios is sitting with an unconscious Nina, and his left eye has gone completely gray, and I think he basically lost sight in it at that point.
His sacrifice, I would assume.
Yeah, I guess it was part of like the sacrifice that would bring that power out of the device or whatever. Some angel troops spot Charios and fire a volley of arrows at him, and his bodyguards like defend him with a force field of green energy that repels all the arrows and any troops who try to enter. Meanwhile, Sophiel finds Elle, who is unconscious, and Gabriel looks on in horror as her forces are just being slaughtered. Jean wakes up and sees visions of her own past as she sees like people being slaughtered on the battlefield. But it's really just Charios. Yeah, it's just really just Charios' forces slaughtering like the Heaven's army in real time, but she's like having flashbacks. Rita wakes up Kaiser poking him in the ass with a stick, and Favreau is like nowhere to be found. He just got launched off somewhere. They spot Jean trying to run away, and they run to her aid. Nina finally wakes up, and she sees Charios. She notices his eye, and he confirms, like, yeah, I've lost my sight. And Nina yells at him for keeping his identity secret. But he's like, well, wouldn't you want to dance with me again? Or he's like, do you not want to dance with me anymore? And she like blushes, and she can't hide that she still has like the hots for him. She spots Kaiser and her friends and wants to go save them, but he tells her like, don't bother, there's no escape. But I thought this was interesting. She turns around and she's like, Charios, help me. And she jumps on him and demands that he just like hug her. And she asks like 3 times, like, just hug me, damn it. And then like he finally does. And so like she transforms into her dragon form. And the royal bodyguard sees this happening and like runs to try to defend Charios. And also at this point, a giant golem just like marches out of the water. It kind of looks nastier than the ones we've seen before. Like,
I want to say it's bigger.
Yeah, it's like bigger. It had like bright glowing green eyes and this big giant suit of armor.
Yeah, bigger and badder, because before she wrecked the shit out of the other ones with no problem. This one she actually has to fight with a little bit. It's like
the captain of the golems or something, probably. Nina like breathes fire at it, but it like does nothing, and she bites at its helmet, but her teeth can't get through. And her dragon takes a punch from the golem like straight to her face. And she could take it, and like, but she claws into like the wrist armor, but it grabs her by the neck and gets her in like a chokehold, basically, or a headlock. Meanwhile, Jean is finally realizing that Nina wasn't lying about being able to transform into a dragon. She's like, holy shit. So yeah, the golem has her in a headlock, but she's able to kind of escape by breaking apart his upper arm with her claws first, and then breathing fire through it as she like whizzes away. It's kind of weird. I didn't really get like the logistics of how it worked, but whatever. She like broke off part of his arm to get out of the grip. She then comes back charging really fast at the golem and tears like a huge fiery hole in its midsection, which takes it down. Charios' bodyguards then try to contain Nina in a green dome of energy, which they did in a previous episode, but she just breaks out of it again with like a huge fire blast. And she stomps over towards Charios in her dragon form, and she looks down at him. And he approaches her, and like he's about to touch her nose, and he like takes off his gauntlet and then like touches her with his bare hand. And when he does, like red energy like bursts forth from her, and she transforms back into her human form. You can tell she has her eyes closed. It's like she was like really enjoying being touched on the head by Charios. And she falls naked into his arms, which is kind of awkward for him. And then Rita doesn't approve, so she comes in and like kicks him away from her and says like, keep your dirty mitts off a lady when she's naked. And Charios asks, who are you? And Rita's like, oh, I'm just your average zombie passing by. She whistles, and Bacchus's carriage drops out of nowhere to pick them up. And John hurries and picks up Nina, and Charios asks them if they really thought he'd let them get away. But then Kaiser shows up and tells Rita, I'm going to stay behind. I'll take care of this situation. And Rita says like, oh, you must be really worried about that dumb afro. And Kaiser denies it. And so he's immediately surrounded by soldiers as the carriage flies off. And it turns out his big plan was just to surrender. So he surrenders, and they beat the crap out of him. But Charios orders him like, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
Yeah, like he falls to the ground, and like they're just punching and kicking the shit out of him.
Yeah. Charios is just happy that the gods have retreated for now. Meanwhile, Gabriel is struggling to understand how Charios was able to create such a weapon. Dromos is a relic of the old world, apparently, from a time before man, demons, or gods roamed Mistarcia, which is this universe, I guess. She doesn't know how they figured out how to build it. She says it probably has enough power to destroy the balance of the world and lead to its destruction, just like Bahamut did. So it's on the level of Bahamut's power. After the credits, Nina wakes up and asks Rita if she did all right. Rita decides, like, you guys need to stay here. I'm going to go check on Kaiser and Afro. And she, like, jumps out of the flying carriage with her umbrella again. And, she tells Nina before she jumps out to stay with the Holy Maiden John. And, Nina wonders, like, what they should do now. And John says she wants to visit the world of the gods because she saw Elle on the battlefield, but she just doesn't know how to get there. And Nina says there's this old lady in her home village who used to talk about the land of the gods all the time. So they decide to go to Nina's village to follow that connection. I'm really hoping at some point this is all going to lead back to Amira. Because, like, I'm still dying to know what the fuck happened with Amira. But, yeah,
really?
It was a pretty cool episode. It was a pretty awesome battle between angels and humans and stuff. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think the probably next episode's probably not going to be obviously as... action heavy, but there's still lots of questions and mysteries I want to find out about too. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, I think this was like a really good place for this like first half of the season to leave off.
Oh, and when that mothership blew up, that was a pretty rad explosion, I will say.
Yeah, it was pretty huge. Yeah, definitely cool. All right, want to move on to your favorite show?
Oh God, let's go on Saturday Recreators, and I will just go ahead and apologize to everybody if you really do like the show, because I hate it and I cannot stop hating this show. Episode 12, be desperate and draw something fascinating. Yes, be desperate. Man, I don't even want to do this. So Alice asks Blitz what he thinks about Momoko's death. He isn't really affected by it because he's seen plenty of death from his world. And Sota is still apologizing and says there was nothing he could do. That's a flat out lie. Okay. I rewatched it to make sure that's what he said. He's like, there was nothing I could have done. No, there's 100 things you could have done better.
Yeah. He's still denying it. Yeah.
So he has a flashback of like Setsuna messaging him after not talking for a while. She pours her heart out to him about the trouble she has had lately. And I mean, really pours her heart out. Like she seriously needs somebody to come and get her back.
Looking back on it, it's clearly a cry for help. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh yeah. It's blatantly obvious. It's like, I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh man, I would have been like there in a heartbeat for Setsuna. I was feeling so bad for her. Yeah,
I think like any normal person would have tried to cheer her up like a little bit, no matter if you like hate her. Like you would, yeah. God.
Oh, don't worry. But unfortunately, she has chosen Sota. And this fucking punk bitch replies with, I've never been in that situation before. Don't ask me. Dude, I almost got up from the desk and walked away. I was like, I can't keep watching this. Why is this show making me hate him so unbelievably much?
Yeah, like typically stuff like this would be reserved for like villains in a show. Like this is like, this guy is such an asshole.
I was just like, oh, wow, I can't stop. And like, I'm pretty sure last episode I made a comment along the lines of like, how could they even possibly make him hate even more at this point? And I was just, and they did.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah. He's so detestable now.
And they did that by making me sympathize with Setsuna. Basically up to this point, not entirely, but she was kind of a nobody. We just know she killed herself when we know kind of why Sota was jealous. But now, like, hearing Setsuna make a cry for help, oh man.
Yeah.
All right. So you can make shows where we hate the main character, but they have to be made so that we love to hate them.
I agree.
The writers missed this. Like I a little bit love to hate on Eren from Attack on Titan.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to hate on Eren because he's so stupid.
Yes, yeah, but I will forever hate Sota, and there's no way they can redeem him in my eyes. I don't care what he does at this point. He's unredeemable.
At this point in the episode, I was even thinking like I'm very curious how people are going to react to hearing this story, and I'm sure you're going to get to that. But yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the other people in the show.
Yeah, the other people who he's telling this to. Like,
yeah,
there better be some kind of reaction to this. Yeah.
And then, oh God, then we go back to the present time, and Sota says he got one more message from her. It was basically her saying, this is her last work, and I've given up on life. Like, it's right there. Mm-hmm. She doesn't flat out say I've given up on life, but she might as well have been. So, but when Setsuna killed herself, her mother called Sota and told him the news. And to cope with this, he deleted everything to do with her from his phone, his computer, any interaction, trying to erase any memories he had of her. I get that Sota probably needs help at this point. Also, he's trying to cope with this situation, but I still think he deserves worse.
Yeah. Thinking about his mother, his mother, Shimazaki or Setsuna's mother, or whatever.
Setsuna's.
Must have gone through like her like messages or something and found like Sota's number in her phone, like trying to put together the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, and she says something along the lines earlier. She doesn't really talk to many people. So like a brief look, I'm sure his mother found out that she talked the most with this kid.
Guy. Yeah. So she was probably trying to put together what happened to her, and fucking he's probably no help because he's just like, oh yeah, I kind of knew her probably, is probably what he would have said.
Well, I actually knew she was going to commit suicide, and I didn't do shit about it.
I didn't tell anybody because I'm a piece of shit.
So we back to the present, and just everybody just accepts his apology.
Yeah, the only one who says anything is Matsubara, who is like, well, if you didn't regret it, I would not want to talk to you. And I'm like, that's the only thing we got. And then everybody just like smiled. He asked him like, are you ready to accept responsibility and move on? And he's like, yes. I think Meteor asks him that. And then like everybody like smiles and is all happy. And I'm like, no, this guy is like horrible. Like this is a horrific thing. How could you ever trust this person again?
You agreeing with me now just blows me away why you gave your score later, but we'll get to that.
I still like this show, though.
I hate it.
The thing is, like, it's making me feel things like I hate this one character, but I kind of still like the whole premise of the show. But you can continue. Yeah. Yeah.
When this show does things wrong, there's such a big sore that I can't unsee it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
But then Meteor basically comes up with the plan to use the power of the creators to take down Altair. But then we go back to Alice's creator, who's meanwhile basically just throwing a temper tantrum in a cell, and then like Alice shows up and she takes him on a ride, which I mean she's on her flying horse and is just holding him up by his ankle, and he's just freaking the F out because what do you do? And oh god, I hate this whole scene.
Oh really?
There's nothing I don't like about it. Like this scene has a moment of good writing, but is completely overshadowed by something that happened just before it. She asks him if the world he created is dear to him, just like Silesia's creator proved that his work was dear to him. Because like she was kind of moved when he rushed forward to help Silesia when she was injured and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So her question is, does he think the world he created is dear to him? Then the show doesn't answer the question. She doesn't even give him time to respond. She just asks a second question before he can answer. So like what would solve this whole situation is if he answered the first one. So that's why I hate the writing. So she asks him if he will save her world. His answer is, you're the hero. It's your job, not mine. And I like that whole dialogue, but I keep going back to that first question. Like, what?
Yeah, this guy kind of seems like an idiot. Like, to be honest, like he kind of seems like an idiot who just wanted to write a story. Yeah, and they portray
him that a little bit, but
and he seems embarrassed as well. He even says like it's embarrassing to answer like these questions, and like she has to like get it out of him, which I don't know. I don't really understand where this writer is coming from, but that's his character, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm just so caught up on that first question not being answered. I can appreciate this moment of like good writing, dialogue. But her response is basically throwing him up into the air and catching him by his shirt collar now and just holding him like that. And then we finally get like this. It doesn't completely answer the question, but it comes kind of close. It's very roundabout of answering that first question when she asked him about Sota's comments from an early episode about how reading about her world taught him about strength, courage, and justice. And we can immediately say that no, it didn't, because he has shown none of these things. And even if this happened after Setsuma's death, he has shown none of these things. He did not learn about them. So I'm just... Fuck you, show. How does anybody enjoy this show? That's my next line. I don't know, plot holes just everywhere. Just nothing makes sense to me. So I need to finish this. The others start to find out why Altair has all these powers. It's because so many people have made secondary characters of her and given her different powers. So, since we know that everybody gets their powers from like multiple people, like knowing about it and basically accepting it and, liking it, I guess that's how they get it. But since Altair can bring other characters to the real world, she also has the power to update her own powers. Her only weakness right now is that the world's restoration power, this came out of nowhere, is too great and would likely throw her out if she basically tried too much. They also finally come up with the plan to revise everybody's stories and make them stronger.
Also, yeah, the world restoration thing, Meteora had talked about that in a previous episode, basically saying that, like, if the creations if Altair tries to change the world too quickly, like, the world will reject the changes, basically, because of its own, like, self-preservation kind of. That's what she's talking about, but yes,
okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
It's kind of
dumb,
dumb,
give it that.
But yeah.
So it makes sense to me. I think it's a neat idea. They probably should have talked more about it.
They did, like Meteora did in a previous episode, but it's been a few episodes since then.
But it was like there briefly and then gone entirely.
Yeah, basically.
So, and then there's just this quick scene of Alice letting her creator go. That's it. That's all that happens. They exchange some dialogue, but none of it is of any importance. But back to the other guys, basically their plan is to write spin-offs and host a huge event so people become passionate about the new stories quickly. They will also lure Altair into a cage that's like supposed to be in between the fake worlds and the real world or something like that. Yeah. And once they once they lure her into this cage, then they'll all buff her abilities and enter the cage and kick her ass. And I wrote that whole paragraph in like 10 to 15 seconds. They used 10 minutes to explain it.
Yeah, they took a while to explain this whole crazy idea of like basically having like a crossover story where all of the heroes would come together. So they're going to
crossover / spin-offs. Yeah.
The authors are going to go write spin-offs that prepare for the crossover story that they'll all bring together during this event. And since all of the fans are at the event, any changes that they make to the story at the event will instantly get into their conscious. So then like the heroes can change their abilities as needed to fend off Altair. It's an interesting plan, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's kind of one we've all been slowly coming to ourselves, I believe, like, especially after the last episode or two where Silesia gets powered up and they've kind of figured out what it takes. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of see it coming, but it's kind of neat to see them do it. But anyways, there's an after credit scene with like Berserk informing Altair about Alice releasing her creator.
Isn't it Blitz, not Berserk?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wrote Berserk.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's Blitz. And then like Altair also admits she was even surprised by Silesia's new powers. And then we also see another character has just been introduced, but he's slightly in the shadows. And like by his design, I feel like it's Silesia's guy partner from her story.
Oh, that would be interesting. I didn't think about that. I wondered if this new guy would be related to Sota somehow again.
I didn't even think about it. I just, I don't know. It was just it looked like the same clothes type that she wears. So I immediately just assumed that's who it was.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
And Altair makes like this very specific line about, I've already informed him of what's going on.
Okay.
So she's already tricked him. So apparently he has to be dumb as Alice too. So I don't know.
She says that like 2 or 3 more creations are
also possible. Yeah.
Like, but not any more than that, or otherwise the world would like not accept it anymore, I guess. So I guess we can expect to meet like 2 or 3 more characters in the second half of the show that'll come. But I at this point I still don't know what Sota's role is going to be in this show.
To piss you off.
I guess that's what his role has been this far. Like seriously, like I don't really get it. I don't know what he's gonna do going forward. Like he's not popular enough of like an author or a drawer to do anything unless he like picked up Setsuna's work from where she left off and pretended posting like it was like he was her reincarnation or something, like, or her come back to life, maybe he could change what's her name's Altar's powers that way. Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
This show has terrible writing, so I don't think they know what they're doing with Sota. I
don't know if I know either. I really don't.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he's just a nothing when it comes to the final episode still.
That would be terrible. Well,
or they just give some like wonky explanation of why he's important at the end, which wasn't important or we knew nothing about until like the final episode or two.
I think Altair is going to eventually take an interest in him because, I mean, Altair is like that aspect of Setsuna.
Well, yes, and we also knew Setsuna was a little bit passionate and liked Sota, so it wouldn't be surprising if like Altair
can't hurt him, maybe, or
can't hurt him, captures him, keeps him for herself. Yeah. I don't know.
And then maybe he tries to like convince her. Maybe he tries to talk to Setsuna through her, and like I don't know, man. Like, but what's he gonna say? Like, oh,
and then that's his redemption for letting her kill herself.
God, yeah. I don't know. I'm still intrigued by where this story goes, but yeah, it does have a lot of flaws. I don't know, just like the constant issues with not knowing like how to handle like battles versus like constant talking.
Yes. And
then every issue with Sota's character, and just the fact that Mamika died, that sucked. She was like my favorite. Because like she was like the one truly interesting character. I think Kanoya is kind of interesting too because he's like this little Shinji clone, but Mamika was
I like Sharktooth Girl. She's crazy, but I think they killed off Mamika to just like say, "Oh, look how dark and gritty we can be by killing off the most innocent character we have."
Yeah, we're just like Madoka Magica. Yeah, and they still haven't followed up on like. So what happens to that her story now? Is her series canceled, or does she just go back to that world, or what?
And what's to stop Altair from bringing another Momika back or whatever?
Yeah, what if she brings back like Dark Mamika?
Oh God, Mamika, sorry.
That'd be so funny.
Jeez. All right.
I'm so morbidly curious where everything goes. But the last two shows were My Hero Academia Season 2, which basically the first half of that season has finished, so we're not reviewing. And then Attack on Titan Season 2, we already finished, so
and the Attack on Titan Season 3 is spring of next year, so...
Yeah, that got announced at Anime Expo.
That's way sooner than the second season came after the first.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting.
All right. Let's do these final scores and argue some more.
All right, so let's go through our 10 shows and see how we thought of these 10 shows. Alice and Zoroku. My final thoughts on this were that the show was very uneven, but I never really enjoyed it at any point after the first double episode, which I really did enjoy. Like, there's a lot of things that were like, oh, that's mildly interesting, but then I was always like, I don't know why the show chose to go this direction instead of like staying with what it set up. I was always trying to figure out what it was trying to be and just confused by it. Like, it seemed like 2 or 3 different shows that were crammed into one with no clear direction besides, look, we have cute girls being cute. But yeah, like, and the last thing I want to say is just like, I think it suffered from being adapted from material. I think they tried to rush the material and get through like a bunch of different manga volumes or light novel volumes. I think it was a manga. And like it hurt the show in general. And the last thing I have to say is just about like the tone shifts in the show. Like, if you were gonna like end in this happy way, like you can't have this scene where you tie your main character up.
One of the things I liked was
and shoot
all
her.
The tone shifts.
I guess like, yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it was all disconnected. Like, I just didn't like that scene had no impact on Alice's character going forward. And like, I have my headcanon for why it didn't, that she like rewrote her existence to forget about it. But still, they never actually said that in the show, so I can't actually give that to them, that they thought of that. So like it seems like she just got shot and like kidnapped in the back of the car and like almost abused. And then it did, like, there was nothing came out of that. It was just all for shock value. So in the end, I end up giving this show a 4 out of 10. I think it was below average because of like these flaws in like the setup and the writing. But yeah, what do you think?
I'm appalled you gave this show a 4. So my final thoughts are the show did have a rough first half, but after seeing the entirety of the series, I think I actually enjoyed the first half more than I initially thought. Now that I think back on it, I like the dark tones. I like how it jumped around. It was all over the place, and the second half really became what I wanted to become. Almost showing at the beginning not the show I wanted, but then giving me the show I wanted almost made it a better appeal. It's like showing a shitty car next to a really nice car. It's going to make the nice car look better.
That's true.
I thought it had a good wrap up. If they made another season, I would definitely watch it. I would love to hear more about the Alice in the world and how she grows up. And their take on Alice in Wonderland, I thought was super neat. It's just such a different take, making like Wonderland its own new growing universe. And then it basically creates Alice and sends her out to learn from our world so it can create itself. I thought that was super cool. I'm going to give it a 7 because I really liked it. 5 for me, that's your mean average. It means I sit down and I go, meh. 6 means you just beat out meh.
Yeah.
It's did a couple things right, maybe a couple things wrong. 7 means it really kind of started to exceed my initial expectations. I thought it did a lot of things right. So you giving it a 4 blows my mind.
I felt it was below average, yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. I liked the like what you were saying. I think I did like the first part of the season better, which is why I was disappointed when it just became Moe Slice of Life for a few episodes in the middle. Because I was like, I want to know more about that setup. Like the evil guy Quito, he never came back.
Yeah, well, also the whole thing about them, doing all these different tones and running around all over the place. Alice is also trying to become her own self. So, she needs to experience everything.
I don't even know if she needs to experience getting shot in the back of a car by a crazy woman. I don't know. Maybe if she could have done without experiencing that, and also Snickers product placement.
Oh, and Carl's Jr. too.
Carl's Jr. too, yeah.
Yeah, they did that in the first half, and they never went back to it.
Yeah, they never brought that back. So there's a lot of things about this first half of the show that, it's like, did you want to make this show, or was this like some weird decision making that got changed by the second half? It's very strange.
Yeah, and also some of the things you were saying earlier, they obviously with adaptations things need to change mostly, and due to time constraints, they're cramming a lot more into this anime than they would have in the manga. So maybe the transitions from the super dark scenes to the Moe Slice of Life was a lot better transition.
Yeah.
Than what the anime could do, because
I'm sure it was, yeah.
It couldn't devote a whole episode to that transition. It had to basically cram it into the first 10 minutes of an episode,
Yeah, I agree.
So I gave it a 7, you gave it a 4.
All right. Let's move on to the next show, which is Little Witch Academia.
10. Go watch it on Netflix. And
my thoughts about this, very few shows have made me happier to watch than this one did. Every episode. I would say my few disappointments are that Susie's character didn't get more backstory to play around with. And that just Lotte and Susei's characters got pushed aside a little bit in the second arc of the show for Diana and Chariot and Qua and Akko. But I didn't hate that too much because their freaking stories were so good. Diana was such a good character, and so was Chariot.
And what episodes we saw instead of the backstories were fantastic anyways.
Yeah, they were so good. And every week we were just sitting here being God, that show was amazing. God, that show was amazing. And I'm giving this a 10. I was in between a 9 and a 10, and I was nah, I think this is a 10. It just does so many things that I like, and never resorted to shitty fan service at any point in the entire show. It's a show that I could recommend to anybody. And not have to think about it.
It never showed them in their undergarments. It never even showed them in bikinis, did it? Swimwear or anything?
Not that I remember. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even try to touch on it.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is maybe my favorite Trigger show now. I know it's definitely between this and Kill la Kill. I think I need some time to sort that one out, because I don't basically if it stands the test of time, this might.
It beats out Trigun.
Trigun is a Trigger show? I don't know if it's a Trigger show. Trigun I haven't watched, by the way.
Oh, I'm gonna look it up.
I think that might be like Gynax or something. But yeah, man, what a freaking good show. Definitely just go watch this show now that it's out on Netflix, finally. Since Netflix has been holding it hostage all this time, people can finally enjoy it. And I have friends who are going through and watching it already, and they're just like, I can't believe I didn't get to watch this. Like,
it's Madhouse, my bad.
Oh, Trigun, yeah.
Yeah,
there's like, Trigger actually hasn't made that many things so far. Space Patrol, Luluco, you know. All right, next show, Grimoire of Zero.
I have final thoughts.
All right, why don't you start first?
On Little Witch Academia.
I thought you just said 10, go watch it. I thought that was your final thoughts.
No, my final shot was the show can do no wrong except for not giving me a Susie episode.
Yeah, I mean, really, that was like one of my only disappointments with the show. It's just like, I wanted
and
that
I would
Susie.
love to see backstories of like Amanda or the other two characters. Like we know about Diana's family. We know about Lote's. We actually don't know anything about Akko's, and she's the main character. Like, I would love to learn about everybody, but
I would love to see another season where they focused on all those other characters.
And the way the show ended, they could totally do.
I was thinking
anything
at the end,
they wanted.
like, it's fine if it ends here, but they could easily do more, and it would be fine. And there's no reason for them not to do more. So,
right.
Yeah, and they're doing the video game, which I'm excited about. That's coming to the West. That got announced.
Oh yeah, I'm totally got to pre-order that as soon as I can.
But yeah, let's move on to the next one, Grimoire of Zero. Why don't you start with your final thoughts on this show?
It's just above average, decent fantasy show. Mm-hmm. Because I found it entertaining, I have to leave it out of a 5 and move into giving it a 6.
Okay.
It definitely could have done stuff better, but like I said, I enjoyed it, and if I enjoyed it, no matter what I had problems with, it's still got to be in the positive side. So it gets a 6.
Yeah, for me, this show was disappointing because like I was initially really optimistic about the relationship and the dynamic between Mercenary and Zero. They both seem so charismatic, and I just think the show failed in the characters it ended up putting around them. Like Hold'em was good. I think he was the best addition to the cast by far.
Really?
Yeah, because like he had that one episode with Mercenary where they were like just broing out and like fighting together, and like their banter back and forth was really fun.
He even got a good chunk of an episode with just his backstory.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like I liked Hold'em. Yeah, Hold'em I think was the best person they had added to the cast. I think Albus was pretty boring overall. Like her big twist that he was actually a she, it wasn't really satisfying because there was very little lead up to it. Like we were both just surprised when that happened, and there was really no fallout from it afterwards either. Like it didn't drastically change anything about the show. 13 was the other big disappointment as the main villain of the series. Like I can see what they were trying to do with him, but he just bored me. Like he's just a boring character. He's so flat. And he was only really a fearsome villain for like maybe 1 or 2 episodes before he just was on their side already. And yeah, I just don't watch fantasy shows for boring villains who turn out to be overprotective older brothers.
Earlier I did say he's like an overprotective older brother. I do know I said that. So like that was like a call I made like in episode 5 probably.
Yeah. And yeah, when I was thinking about what to score this show, I was actually thinking of Alice and Zoroku, which I gave a 4. And I was thinking, no, this show is not as good as that show. Like, so I gave it a 3. And mostly it's because of like the egregious fan service in those middle episodes, which I thought was unnecessary, where like they had Zero stripping down naked while getting dressed, and then like the pedophile dude like keeping her clothes. And I was like, why is this even in this show?
But the show was so self-aware of how fucked up that was.
Yeah, it was self-aware, but then it was like the last straw was when they turned Albus into a little girl too, and I was like, oh, so she'd been sleeping with Mercenary that whole time. This is their way to get like the dojins written. Like this, just another lolly they added to the show like retroactively. I was annoyed that they retroactively added a lolly to the show. I was pissed, but whatever.
It's funny you say lolly, but it's not like a generic lolly designed.
No, it's not at all. Like the only reason I would call her one is because like she said she had those like weird lines about how, yes, I served my master last night to like the guards of that town, and like, yeah,
those are some of my favorite jokes.
Yeah, they were funny when I thought she was a little boy. And then when I thought she was a little girl, I was like, anime.
What is that, like a reverse trap?
I guess so. Like it's called an otokonoko. That's like the Japanese term for it, is like a girlish looking boy, basically.
No, an otonoko is a girly
so
boy that dresses as a girl.
Yeah. So I guess it would be reverse trap. I don't like the term trap, but I guess that's what it would be called. Yeah. But yeah.
And everybody listening to us, don't question why we know these things. If you've been in anime as long as we do, you learn, unfortunately.
I've seen almost everything by this point. It takes something like Arrow Manga Sensei for us to like be surprised. So
yeah.
Let's move on to the next show, which is Sakura Quest, which we'll give a mid-season score.
Woo!
I thought that the show was basically barely above average for much of the first half of the season. Like, more often than not, I was kind of bored with it because, like, the initial few arcs were just like, okay, here's this girl's backstory, and like we meet a little bit more of the town people, and then here's this girl's backstory, and like we're doing like an arc for each girl.
This is where I agree with your score.
Yeah. Luckily, once all the girls got introduced in the past couple episodes, things have been moving more quickly. Everything's been coming together. Like, all of the characters are this big, sprawling cast, like, are unique, and I like them, and I like their motivations. And all of the character designs are fantastic. I've said that from the beginning. I love PA Works' character designs for girls and everybody, honestly. And I think I expect the second half of the show to be like quite a bit better than the first, because we've got all these characters set up and we know all of them. They can do various different things with them. And I think they'll come up with more fun ideas. So I give it a 6 for the first half of the season, just because I think it was a little bit slow getting started and a little bit boring at times. But now it's starting to hit its stride. It's definitely above average.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. The show is really hitting its stride. Once we finished the Maki arc, I just felt like the show really started to bloom.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to the last half of this season, of the whatever season, mm-hmm. And expecting it to, if it stays at this stride, I will bump it up an extra point when it's over, because then I would think it's amazing. But as of right now, I will give it a 7. Okay, I think it's just better than above average. I do think it's better than Grimoire, which I just gave a 6 to. So
yeah, I think it's definitely better than Grimoire for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But we can talk about your favorite show of the season by the score, I can tell.
I have a lot of stuff to say about this, actually. So Buso Shoujo Machiavellianism. So what I'll say about this is that there were definitely worse shows than this one that aired this season. Like, and I'll list some of them off for you, many of which I actually did go back and finish. Like Aromaga Sensei, that's a 1. That is a 1. It's actually more like a 0 out of 10.
Well, that's only because we drank our way through. We survived.
Yeah, right. Akashic Records of Master Magic Instructor, that is a 1 out of 10. Hinako Note, that is a 1 out of 10. Clockwork Planet, 1 out of 10.
Sakura you went back and watched Clockwork Planet?
I went to watch like a couple more episodes. I did not finish it. It's fucking terrible.
Oh, wow.
Sakura to Reset, I did not go back and watch, but I could still tell you that's like a 1.
I'm so glad
first episode, it was so bad.
I dodged almost all these right off the bat.
So yeah, I'm like, I was really happy to follow Leo as he like enjoyed this show. I got way more enjoyment out of this show because I was reviewing it with Leo, and like he like just got so many laughs and like so much happiness out of it. And like, but for me, like as I was like sitting alone watching these episodes, I was like laughing every here and there, but it was like really few and far between. And most of it, I was just like laughing at the show rather than laughing because the show was actually trying to make me laugh.
You can't do that with recreators.
But I was just bored because like it was so generic and like it was so cookie cutter, and we knew exactly where this harem was going from like the first episode. And I know you say like episode 11 of Tsuki ga Kirei, like don't need to watch it. I'll tell you, episodes 2 to 11 of Armed Girls Machiavellianism, I could have skipped.
Well, here's the would have been lost. At least in Busojo Machiavellianism, if you went started another episode, you would have to wonder why these two people are fighting.
Yeah.
Not with Tsuki ga Kirei. I didn't know anything. Like it. I remember it starting off, and it's like he failed his entrance exams, and from episode 10, I already knew he was going to take them.
Yeah.
And so episode 11, whenever I heard you do your synopsis, I'm like, I didn't need to know any of this.
Yeah, but I think episode 11 is a specific case of that in Tsuki ga Kirei, because there's other episodes you could not have skipped.
It may have been. Yes, it may have been a very specific case.
I agree with you on episode 11. Like, it went off on tangents. It explored his relationship with his mother and his parents more so than what
and if you're invested with those characters, you probably would really enjoy it.
Yeah. But, okay. I was going to say the one redeeming factor of Armed Girls Machiavellianism is that the bear became a waifu. I did not see that coming. I legitimately thought that was funny, except it didn't go anywhere. Like, I wanted the bear to be like with him at the end.
Well, then he would have been a homewrecker because the bear already had a husband and a child. So,
oh, yeah, I guess that's true. So in the end, I give this show a 2 out of 10. It's not a 1. There were worse shows than this. You could get some enjoyment out of it. I still think it was kind of like boring and terrible and generic, but I could see how you could enjoy it.
So yes, I'll start off with my score. It's a 5. It gets average because it's a fun nonsense show that just has fun with itself. It's my vanilla show of the season. It was my way to find my center of what I think about anime and just to sit there, and I even enjoyed it, but I can't give it a 6 because it does a lot of things very generic. But I don't know. I think I enjoyed it. I didn't have to, like I said the whole time, I can just turn my brain off and sit here and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if something didn't make sense. It's probably wasn't even written supposed to, and it doesn't matter.
I couldn't tell as the series went on if like the writers were trying to be serious at times or not. Like, that's another problem for me is like,
yeah, you just can't care. Yeah. And like, I would love to put the same mindset on recreators, but it gets so talk heavy. You really have to pay attention to what they say, and they try to be really serious.
Yeah.
And Buso Shoujo does not take itself seriously. So whatever they say, you're just like, meh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. I'll take it first. So this is Tsuki ga Kirei, my final review. I think it was an almost perfect romance show. It's definitely one of the best I've seen. It's like a really smart, insightful, well-written exploration of what first love can be like, and the challenges and obstacles you have to overcome along the way. It surprised me at almost every turn because most romance anime have the characters just constantly like miscommunicating and falling into all these drama traps. But instead, this one was way more realistic and something that I think a lot of people will identify with. I can see this anime being recommended as one of the top romances for years to come for people to watch. I was going in between a 9 and a 10 with this, and I decided to land on a 9 because it did have some production issues, not just with delays, but with like the really wonky like CGI crowds that we talked about in the first several episodes that kept coming back. Like that stuff just looked random bad
and obvious.
Yeah, and like while it did make my heart feel something at times, like it just didn't get to me on like a really like visceral level like some other romance shows have just like ripped my heart out. This one, it got to me. It made me think about my past, made me feel things, and it was great. Like I would just say, like overall, I thought it was great. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. That's my final score.
Okay, so I'm just gonna flat out say it. I give it a 3. Yes, my score is probably harsh, but I truly think this show sucks. There are probably people I would recommend it to, but like I said earlier, it's the differences between Bcom's and I's liking of this show is due to more personal experiences and whether or not we can relate to it. Because of that, I found it so unforgiving and boring. I hated watching this every week. I would save it up to like the last 20 minutes before we record sometime because I just put it off for so long. Also, to me, the relationship is so unconvincing. Again, that's because I can't relate to it at all. And to best describe this show is banal. And just to give everybody the definition of banal, it's so lacking in originality as to be obvious and boring. And that's what this show was for me.
For you, I get it, but I disagree with that.
For me.
Yeah. For
and
me,
I just could not.
Because I'm like a connoisseur of like the anime romance genre. It's like one of my favorite genres in anime. Romance is one of the things I go to anime for, because so many Western romances are so cynical now and like dark. And I think that's kind of what you wanted from the show. But like, with anime romance, like I go to it for like optimism.
Well, that's because I would relate to it more.
Yeah, and I relate to it too. I've had horrible failed relationships too, but like I don't want to think about that all the time. I like thinking about like when things were good and like when like good experiences I've had. So anime and also like Asian like soap operas and stuff, like in K-pop, or not K-pop, Korean dramas and J-dramas, like they almost always have a more optimistic outlook on romance, which I like a lot.
Whenever I find anime dramas interesting is usually because it's coming from a different culture and society, Japan. So it's different to me, and that's what I find interesting in it. I think the problem with this one was it seemed too unreal. So. Yeah.
I mean, you could look at that last scene with Kotaro screaming at the train and be completely cynical and be like, yo, dude, she didn't hear you. like you should have just called her on the phone. Like, easily. Like, but like, it's just this pure romantic idealism. Like, no, I'm going to go to the place. I'm going to yell the thing because I believe in this thing. And then it leads to it actually working out. Like,
I will
something
say
in the universe works out, you know?
It would have been worse if he ran up to the platform and she sees him out through the window, or she sees him from the bridge. That would have been worse. That's
what I expected too. I was like, oh, she's gonna see him. Like, she wouldn't. I've been on that train in Japan. You're not gonna hear anything from outside, like nothing. There's no way she would have heard him. So I was glad that that did not happen. But yeah, so yeah, we're pretty far apart in those scores. But hey, this is one of our locks, just like Buso Shoujo was. So one of us liked them, the other person didn't. That's going to happen sometimes.
Yep, that happened with one of each of our locks, actually. So
go. Why don't you start it off with Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul?
So we got Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul. Okay, so if this show had not played so much on Nina's horniness at the beginning of the show, I probably would have given it a 10. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea that being horny is her trigger to transform into a dragon. I think they did it as well. It could have been done more tasteful. It could have been executed a little bit better. Like at some points they just play it off as like a joke, and it's like kind of a forced joke. But then there's like the really funny scenes where like there was all the sexual symbolism with Cherios and Nina and like the banana and him biting into the apple and stuff, which I really liked. I like, that's cool. That's clever writing. That's clever animation and whatnot. So it gets a big fat 9 out of 10. See, I don't know. Not season 2. The second part of this entire season is really just going to have to like blow my socks off if I raise the score anymore. So yeah, I give it a big 9.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same place as you. I felt like this show had really strong animation week to week, really good character development, like in all of like the side cast. Like I was worried for like them not introducing Favreau for so long, but then they really made me care about like Cherios and Jeanne d'Arc and Nina, even though she was like so ridiculous and horny. And I definitely did have a problem with that too. Is just like that trope of her being horny was overused several times. But
yeah. How old is she? 16?
I forget. I guess she's like a teenager though. Yeah.
She's in that age group where like the hormones are really kicking in. Yeah, I get it. It's very believable, but
yeah. But it was over the top. Like it was like when it was every single guy. Now that that's changed and it seems to be only Cherios who has that effect on her, I like it a lot more. And so also like I'm just usually against giving a show a 10 until it's over and done with. Like unless it's like really just blowing my mind. Like I think I remember Shogun Roku. I had that sitting at a 10 for a while I was watching it. But so I'll have this show at a 9 right now. And I think there's a good chance it could be a 10 by the time we've finished watching it. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the second half of the season. Like I'm more so than almost any other show in summer. I will be looking forward to this one probably.
Oh yeah, I'm already waiting for the next episode, but then I realized that doesn't come out till Saturday, and we're recording on a Monday, so I'm super bummed.
So let's move on to the next show. I'll take this one. Recreators.
Defend it.
It's been a bit up and down with the pacing and the writing. But all in all, I've kind of enjoyed this show because it has such a unique and weird plot that I haven't really seen in anime. Just like the ideas behind this show are really good.
I think that's what makes me hate it more, is because it could do so good, but it just, oh God, trips over itself. Go on.
And I haven't watched it yet. There's an episode 13 out that is a recap episode.
Yep.
That is apparently extremely self-aware, and Meteora is like the narrator, and it's apparently hilarious.
She narrates it. There's one part, it's a bit funny. The rest of it, just skip.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think the second half is probably going to be more fun than the first half now that we have all the pieces in place, but they do say they're going to add like 3 more characters too, so I'm a little wary about that. I still have no idea what Soto's role is going to be in the show going forward. But I hope we can get back to some fun like fan fiction battles, and it seems like we will. Hopefully the scales will tip from like overdoing the exposition every episode to just more quick battles in between like awesome light novel and video game characters, because that's what I'm here for. But I give it a 7 because like every episode, even if there is something bad happening, there is some idea that comes out of it that I like the writers speaking with their own creations and talking about what it means to be a writer, what it means to be somebody who lives in a fictional world, and like what your ideals are when you come to a real world from that fictional world. Like there's a lot of interesting philosophical stuff that happens.
I wanted to do all that, but it won't. It sucks.
Why don't you give us your thoughts?
It's just a fucking writing nightmare. It gets a 2. It's worse than Tsuki got Kirei. They have you listed all these great ideas they can do, and they do none of it. This show is just like Sota is unredeemable at this point. This first half is so god awful. They could go. The second half could be as good as Little Witch Academia, and I would maybe give it a 4 at best. Because it's so bad. But like you said, you have all these hopes and all these things that it wants to do and what it can do. And its original idea is absolutely amazing. But they've just squandered the whole thing. I don't know what went wrong. Do you know what the original source is?
It's an original. It's an original show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You just made me hate it more.
I knew I would.
Oh, God. If they had at least drafted from something, I know you can run into problems with that, but just talk about My Hero Academia.
All right, that's fine. All right, so My Hero Academia Season 2, the first half. This is a mid-season score. I had this show sitting at an 8 for most of the season. Through the Todoroki and Deku fight, and I was like, yeah, this is a really solid shonen. I'm like, from week to week, it's like your typical shonen tournament arc. Like, it's fun. But then all these problems came in with the attitudes of the show towards its female heroes that really ruined the fun of the show for me, because I'm sensitive to that kind of bad writing about gender. I know this is a shonen series, but hey, it's a shonen series that's airing in 2017, and Japan needs to get their shit together and write better female characters. Instead,
I will say what I didn't find as noticeable in the manga. It all plays out the same way, but I picked up on it definitely while watching the anime, but I didn't really notice it in the manga.
That'll be interesting. Maybe I'll go read through like the tournament arc chapters, like especially during Ochiko's fight with Bakugo, because like I would like to see, did her classmates like say the same things? Like they called her like a frail girl, and like no one expected her to win, not just because she was going up against Bakugo, but because she was a girl. And
yeah, I honestly can't remember. That was too minute.
And the show did like turn the girls into literal cheerleaders in the beginning of this arc. Like they dressed them up in cheerleader costumes and had them go root for the boys, which was like
that
fun.
Was just like the fan service scene though.
Yeah, I figured it was like fan service, but then like when I saw the whole first part of this season in like total, I was like, oh, that's what the girls are to these writers. They're just cheerleaders for the boys. Like and like everything they did from then on, like, served that idea. So I just got increasingly disappointed with it. I loved that one episode, like the Deku and Todoroki fight, like that they just animated the shit out of. That was amazing. Like that was definitely the high point of the season. I think it's worth just watching that episode, even if you're not going to watch the whole show. I just think it was I don't know, maybe the rest of the show I will probably watch, but I don't know, it's not going to be another lock for me to review this next season. This was one of my locks because I figured like, oh, this show is so popular. I've really enjoyed this show.
Yeah, first season was like crazy popular, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's still very popular. I've only seen a little bit of pushback about like the female characters that I've like talked about. So I think mostly people are still enjoying it for sure. I just feel let down because I thought the show was going to be slightly different. Like even with the ED that focused on like all the girls, I was like, oh yeah, they have like an ED for the girls, they've got OP for the boys, like it's like an equal kind of partnership. But no, I don't know, man. So in the end, I gave this a 5. I came down from an 8 all the way to a 5, and I just felt like this is on the whole just like an average shonen at this point, not a very good one.
So would you mind if I told you what direction they go with the females in the rest of the show?
Only if you're really vague, just because of our listeners, they may not want to hear it. Or if you, how about like we say, like if you want to tune out for like spoilers, just come back in like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah. I'll just say 10, 15 seconds from now, tune out. But the girls, they get sidestepped. They're almost not even powerful anymore. Only Ochiko no is even brought up later on.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that when I was reviewing one of the episodes, and I was just like so disappointed because, man, yeah, that's just really disappointing. Like I understand like that most manga are like that. Like
yeah, and I wasn't picking up on it too much, but I usually when I read my manga, I read the updates every day, so I'll read like somewhere from 5 to 15 manga chapters real quick in one day, so I wasn't picking up too much on it. But once you brought it to my attention, now I'm like super aware of it. You ruined it for me too.
Oh no. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So let's talk about Attack on Titan season 2.
All right.
Yeah, you take this one off because I'm just in agreement with everything you had to say.
Yeah, so this season was another like uneven one, but its highs were really high. Its lows were like, oh, this is like a filler episode. Like basically, I think this had some of the strongest episodes of the series. Like the reveal of Reiner and Bertholdt's true identity. That was maybe the strongest episode of the series.
I'll say between this show and Recreators, I'm really getting tired of flashbacks.
I agree. Flashbacks need to serve more of a purpose for sure. Though, by the way, I really liked that flashback in Recreators because it did tell us about Setsuna's character. It made sense. It also made me hate Sota like no other. But yeah, maybe that's what they're. They're trying to do something with that. I have no idea. I might be way too overly optimistic about the writing of that show. We'll have to find out. But
they would have to do something that just like blows my mind, and I. Like I'm watching, I just start shitting myself because I can't comprehend it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the other episode of Attack on Titan that I really liked was the one that covered Ymir's backstory and like got into the lore of how Titans were created. I thought that was awesome. I also seemed like they were jumping ahead in the manga when they covered that stuff from people that have talked about it. So I'm
still farther than this in the manga, and I stopped a long time ago. So
yeah.
I didn't, so that surprised me. I was like, what?
But yeah, those flashback episodes to like Little Mikasa and Eren were just completely unnecessary filler that just did not need to exist. I don't know why those episodes were there. But yeah, despite being so uneven,
to make you feel more compassionate about their characters, like you do with Tsuki and Kirei.
No, that's different. That's definitely different.
Okay.
Despite being so uneven, like the animation was so good, the soundtrack was fun, like I still really enjoy watching these characters, especially Mikasa. I just felt it was still very good overall, and I'll definitely continue to watch this when it returns next year. I give it a solid 7.
So, yeah, I'm basically in complete agreement with what Bcom said. I don't err on anything he just said. I do think its ups were enough to outweigh its downs to earn an extra point higher. Mm-hmm. So I give it a really good 8. I believe 8s are probably going to be really rare for me. Mm-hmm. Just where they sit, because they're just borderline amazing, but then just barely over getting good, really interesting stuff. But man, wow, do I hate Aaron's character still. And I meant to say this earlier, but I never wrote it down. But when we glossed over, My Hero Academia season 2, since it was in summer, and then Attack on Titan, since it was finished, I was going to say they were going to do a special episode, OVA, where it's a possible future where Eren and Mikasa gets married, and on their honeymoon, Mikasa comes out from behind the curtain and she has a strap-on on, and Eren realizes what he is in for.
What, you didn't see the signs, Eren? I am the dominant one in this relationship.
And then you obviously end with with Mikasa, and she's got her crazy eyes, and it's just this quick shot of Eren with like his panicked eyes, and it just cuts out.
No, Eren calls like a bunch of Titans to save him, and like she just takes all of them down. It's like one after the other. She's like, I don't give a shit about your coordinate bullshit. I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh man.
She's just strutting towards him, covered in Titan blood, with this big old strap on and a sword in each hand. Yeah.
And Armin is on the side
with maneuver gear on.
Armin's the best man. He's just like, Eren, just let it happen, dude. Just let it happen.
he's like, it's for the best for all of us. She'll kill me too.
Oh man.
So I gave it an 8. You gave it a 7.
I can see why you gave it an 8 now.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So I don't know. It was a pretty decent season of anime. There were some ups and downs. I think we made good choices because a lot of the stuff we cut was just horrible.
I believe we did come over. We'll disagree on recreators. I felt like, even though I still have not finished Kato, I heard it didn't end well.
Yeah,
but I still enjoyed what I've seen more of that than recreators. So that's probably my only
regret. Yeah, I can maybe agree with that. I need to see how Kato ends. That's like one of the only shows I'm still interested in.
After you gave that show a 7, you can't agree to that.
I will say that Sainai Heroine, the Sodatekata season 2, the How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, seems like it's been just the kind of fan service show that I like. I need to finish watching that one up too. But besides that, we're going to take a little break, get ready for summer season. We've already got our Google Docs started. It is a lot of shows to watch. We've started watching a few of them already. But
yeah, we've already got a couple of reviews on there.
Yeah.
So
we'll take a little break. We'll take a week off. We'll probably come back when the first 1 or 2 episodes of everything have aired and start to give our impressions, which will be broken up over 2 podcasts since it's a lot of shows to cover.
Yeah, you wrote 22 pages and we hadn't had the synopsis up yet. So.
Yeah, because I just have like all of the information about each show and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what we did with this season. We, depending on when they aired, tried to watch 1 or 2 seasons. It was mostly 2, a couple of the ones. But was there anything else you would like to add, Bcom?
No, that's it. Just look forward to summer, and we'll have that podcast up in a couple weeks.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, Google Play Music, and other podcast feeds and services. You can also follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. Be sure to check out our next episode on 2017 Summer Anime Start. So see everybody next week.
Peace.